Chapter 1471. That divine sense was like a divine arrow with a terrifying aura that could destroy heaven and earth. The Scorpion King's venom had no power to fight back and was instantly annihilated. Immediately after, it was unknown if Lu Xingqian intended to take revenge, but his divine sense directly blasted towards the Scorpion King's huge tail. Ah! With a scream, the Scorpion King's huge tail was instantly shattered and flesh and blood splattered everywhere. This is the price for sneaking an attack on me. Lu Xingqian's eyes were filled with killing intent. His divine sense turned in the air and swept towards the Scorpion King's forehead like lightning. Crocodile Emperor. The mists of the Dragon Phoenix house shouted. Roar. The Crocodile Emperor roared and quickly rushed over, using its body to block the divine sense for the Scorpion King. Boom. The divine sense blasted onto the Crocodile Emperor. Although the Crocodile Emperor had armor to protect its body, it was still sent flying. The armor was not damaged. After all, it was a divine artifact. But under the armor, it was a bloody mess. The Scorpion King was naturally not spared and was sent flying by the Crocodile Emperor. The two beasts were like meteorites, smashing through one mountain after another and finally smashing into a mountain ridge. The mountain ridge instantly collapsed. The two beasts were buried, their life and death unknown. Is this his true strength? No wonder even Boss Qin is so afraid of this person. The Ant Emperor and the Mist were both shocked. Even the Crocodile Emperor, who was wearing armor, could not block a strand of his divine sense, let alone them. Run. The Spider Emperor shouted. Run? What about Boss Qin? Don't you care about him? The Ant Emperor said angrily. The Spider Emperor roared. He hasn't appeared yet. He must be dead. Run. Where there's life, there's hope. The Ant Emperor gritted its teeth and immediately fled with the mists of the Dragon Phoenix house and the rest. Where do you think you're going? Lu Xingqian smiled disdainfully. That strand of divine sense turned into a stream of light, carrying a monstrous divine power, shaking the sky as it charged towards the Ant Emperor. You want to kill us? You don't have the ability. Ling Yunfei half knelt on the back of the Ant Emperor and stared at Lu Xingqian with a sneer. Then, with a wave of his hand, the Emperor and Ant Emperor, the group instantly disappeared without a trace. And? Lu Xingqian raised his eyebrows. He actually had a spatial divine item. Lu Xingqian. It was also at this moment. A roar came from underground, filled with monstrous killing intent. Lu Xingqian frowned and retracted his divine sense. Then, he turned into a beam of light and fled into the distance without looking back. Boom. Almost at the next moment, Qin Feiyang emerged from the ground. His blood-red hair fluttered in the wind, and the murderous aura around him made him look like a god of death that had descended upon the world. Previously, he had indeed exchanged blows with Lu Xingqian. However, even though his current cultivation had been superimposed to the peak of the 9-star combat emperor realm by the kill character art, he was still no match for Lu Xingqian's divine thought. There was a fist-sized bloody hole in his left shoulder, and blood was flowing out. This was what Lu Xingqian's spiritual sense had penetrated. Of course, he knew. Lu Xingqian had already shown mercy. Otherwise, that wisp of divine sense would not have passed through his shoulder, but through his head. However, he would not feel grateful just because Lu Xingqian had shown mercy. On the contrary, right now, he really wanted to fight with Lu Xingqian, and it was a battle of life and death. Swish. He scanned his surroundings and did not see Ling Yunfei and the others. He knew that everyone must have gone to the spatial divine item. Then, he immediately used phantom steps and chased after Lu Xingqian. Although Lu Xingqian had divine sense, his speed was not very fast. For a moment, he was unable to shake off Qin Feiyang. Seeing Qin Feiyang chasing after him, he began to feel irritated. Suddenly, he braked and stopped. He turned to look at Qin Feiyang and said, "What exactly do you want? Let's end the grudge between you and me here today." Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the 4 moves of the ruins of End Incantation evolved. An invisible force roared in the sky, mountains collapsed, and the earth sank. "You are no match for me now," Lu Xingqian said angrily. A wisp of divine sense swept out and shattered the 4 moves of the ruins of End incantation. That's right. I'm no match for you now. But what about when your divine sense is completely exhausted? Your greatest reliance is your divine sense. Without it, killing you is as easy as slaughtering a dog. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly, took out Chang Shui, and activated the battle incantation. He fearlessly faced Lu Xingqian's divine sense. In an instant, Chang Shui and divine sense met. An earth-shattering sound suddenly exploded in this world. Divine sense was instantly annihilated. Lu Xingqian spat out a mouthful of blood. Chang Shui, on the other hand, was unharmed. However, Qin Feiyang's arm was shattered, and blood flowed out. Chang Shui also fell to the ground. His entire body was sent flying and smashed into a giant mountain. Chang Shui. Lu Xingqian did not look at Qin Feiyang. The first thing he looked at was Chang Shui, which had fallen to the ground, and his eyes were full of greed. It's finally mine. He licked his lips and immediately rushed toward Chang Shui. But at this moment, Chang Shui vibrated and instantly rose into the air, flying in the direction of Qin Feiyang. Damn it! Lu Xingqian was instantly furious. You're the one who deserves to die. Qin Feiyang rushed out from under the collapsed giant mountain. Although one of his arms was shattered, he did not even frown. Whoosh! Chang Shui broke through the air and came over. He raised his other arm and grabbed it in his hand. An arm in exchange for a wisp of your divine sense. It's worth it. Qin Feiyang grinned and once again charged toward Lu Xingqian. Battle intent, killing intent, and purple gold dragon blood intertwined, making him look like an Azura from hell at this moment. Lu Xingqian frowned and said, "Isn't it just 3 pieces of Kuei water essence? Is it necessary to risk your life like this?" "It has nothing to do with the Kuei water essence now." Qin Feiyang's blood-red eyes flickered, more terrifying than the eyes of a demon. Lu Xingqian's heart trembled, because he saw the determination in Qin Feiyang's eyes. Obviously, Qin Feiyang was not joking around. He wanted to settle all the grudges today. Come on, let me see how much divine sense you've condensed over the years. Qin Feiyang roared angrily. Chang Shui emitted a piercing cold light and went straight for Lu Xingqian's throat. Looking at Chang Shui, Lu Xingqian could not help but feel a chill in his heart. Wait until I shatter this arm of yours. Let's see how you're going to fight me. Lu Xingqian's eyes flashed with a hint of fierceness. Another wisp of divine sense emerged and blasted toward Chang Shui. Hey! Qin Feiyang grinned, revealing a mouthful of blood-stained teeth. Following closely, he took Chang Shui and retreated like lightning. At the same time, the ancient castle appeared, surging with dark light and blasted toward Lu Xingqian's divine sense. Boom! His divine sense was shattered and annihilated again. Qin Feiyang's body trembled and blood spurted out. His whole body flew out again and smashed into a canyon. A sinkhole appeared, but he was like a cockroach that could not be killed. He immediately got up and rushed out of the sinkhole. The ancient castle whistled and hovered above his head. Can you shatter this arm of mine? I have the battle secret art to protect my body and merged with the flame of life. I also have the purple gold dragon blood. It won't be that easy for you to kill me. Boom. After that, Qin Feiyang took the ancient castle and rushed toward Lu Xingqian. His body was full of murderous intent. Lunatic. You're really a lunatic. Seeing Qin Feiyang's current state, even Lu Xingqian could not help but feel terrified. Boss Qin, this is for you. At this moment, the Crocodile Emperor's roar sounded behind Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang stopped and turned around. He saw a black light breaking through the air, exuding a monstrous aura. Could it be? Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled and grabbed it in his hand. It was a black armor. It was as light as a feather and as thin as a cicada's wing. Its texture was as smooth as silk. I have already erased the blood contract. Quickly recognize me as your master. The Crocodile Emperor shouted. We only have one request. Kill him. The Scorpion Emperor was also beside the Crocodile Emperor and roared at Qin Feiyang. I will. Qin Feiyang looked at the two beasts and murmured. Fresh blood dripped into the armor. Buzz. The armor suddenly bloomed with a ray of divine light and automatically integrated into Qin Feiyang's body. Qin Feiyang closed his eyes and could clearly feel that the armor was quickly integrating with every inch of his skin and every cell in his body. Divine artifact. Lu Xingqian looked at Qin Feiyang and the Crocodile Emperor and could not help but feel jealous. Why is it that no matter where he goes, there are people and beasts helping Qin Feiyang? Even a divine artifact was given to him without batting an eye? Why is this happening? Swish. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang opened his eyes and two beams of light burst out. He looked at Lu Xingqian and said, "You are even willing to give me a divine artifact. Isn't it incredible?" Lu Xingqian was silent. This is friendship. Someone like you, who only knows how to be self-centered, will never understand. Do you remember Mu Qing's father? If it weren't for Mu Qing's all-seeing eye, would you exchange the Big Dipper flame with the main tower? Qin Feiyang sneered. How do you know? Lu Xingqian frowned. What do I not know about your shady business? Let me tell you, no matter what you do, Mu Qing will betray you sooner or later because he is not a fool. Similarly, he's not a person without desires. Qin Feiyang sneered. I didn't expect the dignified Qin Feiyang to use such tricks to sow discord. Lu Xingqian said sarcastically, You are the previous emperor. You know the human heart better than I do. Do you think I am trying to sow discord? Enough. Let's not talk anymore. Let's continue our battle. Perhaps you won't be able to see the day when Mu Qing betrays you. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. A set of purple gold armor suddenly appeared on his body. It was as if it was made of divine iron and emitted a cold light. This was the armor given to him by the Crocodile Emperor. This armor could not only change its shape according to the owner's thoughts, but it could also change its color. Little crocodile, take a look. The armor on the boss is so majestic and domineering. It is just like the armor of a war god. Unlike you, it is black and ugly. Scorpion Emperor despised. This emperor is called low-key. What do you know? Crocodile Emperor snorted. The disdain in the Scorpion Emperor's eyes grew thicker as he said, Although you're a little annoying, I'm really grateful to you. If it weren't for you, I would have died under Lu Xingqian's divine sense. Thanks. Crocodile Emperor glanced at it coldly and said, Don't talk. Watch the battle. But deep in its eyes, there was a hint of a smile. Whoosh! At this moment, Spider Emperor, Ant Emperor, Ling Yunfei, and the others also ran over anxiously. When they saw the purple gold armor on Qin Feiyang, they were all surprised. Ant Emperor asked, Little crocodile, is this your armor? Yes. Chapter 1472. You're really willing to do that? The Ant Emperor and the other four beasts looked at him in surprise. Do you think I'm so petty? In the face of a great enemy, we should unite against them. I know this principle. The Crocodile Emperor snorted. Hearing this, everyone gave it a thumbs up. Come on. At this moment, Qin Feiyang roared and rushed toward Lu Xingqian like a wild beast. The armor on his body was emitting a dazzling light. His blood-red hair fluttered and his fighting spirit soared. Everyone quickly looked up and looked a little nervous. Although Qin Feiyang was now protected by the armor, everyone had personally experienced Lu Xingqian's strength. The power of his divine consciousness was comparable to that of a pseudo-god. Qin Feiyang might not be his opponent just by relying on the armor. However, they also believed. If Qin Feiyang wasn't certain, he wouldn't have chosen to completely fall out with Lu Xingqian at this time. Come on, everyone silently said in their hearts. Boom. Lu Xingqian glanced at Ling Yunfei and the others, then looked at Qin Feiyang. Two cold lights burst out of his eyes. Although I won't kill you, I will let you know the difference between you and me. He was like a king, with his hands behind his back, looking coldly at Qin Feiyang. As soon as he finished speaking, a wisp of divine consciousness swept out from the top of his head, turning into a dazzling divine light, illuminating the sky and charging toward Qin Feiyang. Difference, Qin Feiyang murmured. The ancient castle cut through the sky and collided with the divine consciousness. Boom! The divine consciousness was shattered on the spot. Lu Xingqian's body trembled slightly, and his face began to turn pale. Looking at Qin Feiyang at this time, he kept retreating, blood gushing out of his mouth, and his face was as pale as paper. However, this time, he wasn't blasted away like the previous 2 times. He could clearly feel that the armor helped him take a large part of the damage. This was enough to explain everything. With this set of armor, he basically had the ability to compete with Lu Xingqian. Without a doubt, this caused his confidence to soar. Boom. He took a step forward and stomped on the ground. The earth collapsed as he steadied himself. He looked up at Lu Xingqian and sneered. The real battle has only just begun. Lu Xingqian's pupils contracted slightly. With Qin Feiyang's current state, if he did not use his spiritual consciousness, he really did not have the confidence to suppress Qin Feiyang. The threat was getting bigger and bigger. Don't think that you can compete with me just because you have a divine artifact to protect you. Murderous intent flashed in his eyes as he took the initiative to attack. I admit that no matter what I do, I'm no match for you now. However, I have the confidence to drag you down to hell with me. Qin Feiyang's aura was overwhelming. Rumble. Crack. The 2 of them fought madly on the ground. Wisps of spiritual consciousness exuded an aura that could destroy heaven and earth. However, Qin Feiyang was not afraid in the slightest. After being injured and falling, he did not feel depressed at all. He got up again and continued to fight. The more he fought, the braver he became. He was like an unkillable cockroach. Blood was flowing all over his body. His clothes had long been soaked in blood and fluttered in the wind. He was more like a machine. He did not know fatigue or pain. He fought to the end. His fighting spirit, his unyielding spirit, and his eyes made Lu Xingqian more and more shocked. The purple gold dragon blood and the fire of life all had amazing recovery abilities. The battle formula, armor, and 2 layers of defense allowed Qin Feiyang to ignore most of his injuries. With all these added up, the current Qin Feiyang was equivalent to having a true immortal body. It was easy to beat him down, but it was difficult to kill him. Time passed breath by breath. The 2 of them were locked in a fierce battle. The sky turned dark. A series of loud noises sounded continuously like thunder, shaking all directions. A destructive aura filled the air for thousands of miles. The earth caved in. Mountains and rivers collapsed. The only remaining oasis had been destroyed in an instant, including the lake. Fortunately, there was only Ling Yunfei and the others in this place. Otherwise, who knew how many living beings would have died under their confrontation? Gradually, the horizon turned white. 10 suns slowly rose. The earth also began to heat up. Ling Yunfei and the others could not help but raise their heads to look at the 10 suns in the sky. Have you guys noticed that the temperature here is different from before? Luo Qingzhu said. Everyone nodded. One word to describe it, hot? It no longer had the cool feeling from before. Obviously, all of this was related to the Kuei water essence. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house retracted her gaze and looked at the battlefield. The change in temperature is only a small matter. When their battle ends is a big matter. The 2 of them had been fighting for the entire night, but there was still no sign of them stopping. This area had been completely destroyed. The ground was filled with cracks and potholes. It was a tragic sight. After a night of bloody battle, there was a trace of exhaustion between their brows. Of course, in terms of injuries, Qin Feiyang's injuries were definitely more severe. However, he had the purple gold dragon blood and had fused with the fire of life. In his body, it was equivalent to having a spring of life. Although he had been injured, his injuries were also constantly healing. After a night of battle, Lu Xingqian did not know how much consciousness he had lost. Similarly, and because of this battle, he had a deeper understanding of Qin Feiyang. This was an extremely terrifying opponent, whether it was his brain or his strength. The 10 suns finally rose from the horizon. The earth was once again in a state of baking. While the 2 of them were bleeding, their sweat also dripped down. Boom. After a collision, Lu Xingqian retreated like lightning and said in a deep voice, "It's time for this boring battle to end." Qin Feiyang also took the opportunity to exhale and sneered. "After warming up for an entire night, are you finally ready to fight for real?" Ling Yunfei and the others looked at each other and could not help but smile bitterly. Such a fierce battle, and he actually said it was just a warm-up? Perhaps in today's world, only this guy dared to be so arrogant. Of course, they also knew the intention of Qin Feiyang's words. He did not want to admit defeat in front of Lu Xingqian. At the same time, hearing Qin Feiyang's words, Lu Xingqian's expression suddenly became angry and he shouted, "When I said it's over, it's over. It's not that you have to die and I have to live. So it's like that." Qin Feiyang suddenly nodded and then sneered. "However, if this battle is not over, it's not up to you to decide." Boom. He took a healing pill, and his fighting spirit and killing intent erupted again. He madly rushed towards Lu Xingqian. "You're really a madman." Lu Xingqian angrily cursed, turned around, and fled at lightning speed. On the one hand, he was really a little scared. He was afraid that Qin Feiyang would perish together with him. Because at this moment, Qin Feiyang's performance was really too crazy. He also understood Qin Feiyang. Although Qin Feiyang had already broken away from his relationship with the Qin clan, he had always been silently fighting for the Great Qin. If he continued to fight, in the end, for the Great Qin Empire, he might really perish together with him. On the other hand, it was not yet time to completely fall out with Qin Feiyang. Escape? Who are you, Lu Xingqian? No, I should say, who are you, Mu Tianyang? You actually chose to escape? Aren't you afraid of being laughed at after your identity is exposed? Qin Feiyang sneered and chased after him. Are you done or not? Lu Xingqian was extremely angry. I'm not done. From the moment you snatched the Kuei water essence and hurt Lu Yunfeng and the others, our ending was already decided. Today, either you die or I die. Qin Feiyang shouted. Phantom steps was used to the extreme. Like a god of death, he followed Lu Xingqian from behind. What did young master say just now? Mu Tianyang? Li Jian and Lu Xingqian looked at Ling Yunfei and the others in surprise. Lu Xingqian is Mu Tianyang, Ling Yunfei said in a deep voice, and then chased after Qin Feiyang. Miss Longfeng, Luo Qingzhu, and Crocodile Emperor also quickly followed. What? Hearing Ling Yunfei's words, Li Jian and Lu Xingqian trembled. After coming back to their senses, the two quickly caught up and asked, Young Master Ling, the Mu Tianyang you mentioned, is he the previous emperor of the Tianyang Empire? Other than him, who else could it be? Ling Yunfei said, How is this possible? We heard from the imperial advisor that Ren Duxing is Mu Tianyang, and back then in the Magic Dragon Mountain range, Ren Duxing was already killed by the young master. Li Jian said, Some things are not as simple as you think. I can only tell you that whether it is Ren Duxing or Lu Xingqian, they are all just clones of Mu Tianyang. Ling Yunfei said. Clone? Li Jian and Lu Xingqian looked at each other, their eyes trembling as they asked, Then where is his original body? I don't know. But according to my analysis, there is a high possibility that his original body is currently in the Mu family of the Forgotten Continent. Ling Yunfei guessed. To Mu Tianyang, the original body was definitely more important than Lu Xingqian and Ren Duxing, who were clones. And Mu Tianyang's original body was only a set of God's bones in the past. Although he didn't know what it was like now, it wasn't hard to tell that his original body had yet to recover to its peak state. Otherwise, he would have already made a move against the Great Qin Empire. After all, as a true war god, an existence that could even compare to the Qin Emperor, with the current strength of the Great Qin Empire, it was simply impossible to stop his footsteps. And the miracle was a dangerous place, especially the second floor. If Mu Tianyang's original body also entered the miracle, then he would definitely enter the second floor. One had to know. Other than the danger of the miracle itself, Emperor Hong and the Imperial Advisor were also on the second floor. If they discovered that Mu Tianyang's original body, especially if they discovered that Mu Tianyang's original body's strength had plummeted and was not as strong as before, what would they do? They would definitely think of a way to completely erase it. Therefore, according to Ling Yunfei's calculations, Mu Tianyang's original body should not take this risk. And now, other than the Mu family of the Forgotten Continent, Mu Tianyang seemed to have nowhere to go. However, Ling Yunfei didn't dare to conclude. After all, Mu Tianyang was an overlord of a generation, unfathomable, and could not be judged with ordinary eyes and thoughts. Mu Tianyang is actually still alive. In that case, hasn't young master been dealing with Mu Tianyang all these years? Li Jin said. That's right. The people of the Great Qin Empire all thought that he was an extremely vicious person. They also thought that he would destroy the Great Qin Empire. But they didn't know that it was he who had been silently protecting the Great Qin Empire, protecting the people of the Great Qin Empire. Chapter 1473. It's been hard on him. Li Jin and the other two couldn't help but sigh. Silently protecting the Great Qin. Enduring the curses of the world. Selflessly contributing. Who else in the world could compare to such a noble sentiment? A kind of respect and admiration for Qin Feiyang quietly grew in their hearts. Unknowingly, everyone left the water source and a barren mountain range came into sight. Little Scorpion, isn't this your territory? The Crocodile Emperor glanced at the mountain range and said in a daze, Yes. The Scorpion Emperor nodded. The Crocodile Emperor's eyes suddenly lit up and asked, Does Lu Xingqian know? That place is full of my underlings. If he appeared in my territory, I would definitely know. The Scorpion Emperor smiled confidently. In other words, Lu Xingqian didn't know that it was his territory. The Crocodile Emperor heard this and laughed sinisterly. Then what are you hesitating for? Get your underlings to come out and cut off his path. The Scorpion Emperor was stunned and hesitated. That's not good. Even we can't withstand that person's divine sense, let alone my underlings. You have so many underlings. What's wrong with a few dying? Besides, he might not dare to attack against hundreds of thousands of spirit demon scorpions. The Crocodile Emperor sneered. All right. The Scorpion Emperor nodded and roared, Underlings, come out and stop that human. His voice was like a bell that resounded through the sky. Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingqian chased each other and arrived at the mountain range. They were about to enter. Suddenly, they heard the Scorpion Emperor's roar and couldn't help but stop and turn to look at it suspiciously. The Scorpion Emperor smiled at Qin Feiyang. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Rustle. But in the next moment, there was a burst of ear-piercing sounds coming from the mountain range ahead. Qin Feiyang quickly looked back and saw groups of spirit demon scorpions crawling out from the ground. The big ones were dozens of feet long, like mountains, exuding a terrifying aura. Small ones, palm-sized ones, fist-sized ones. It was densely packed. In an instant, the ground was covered in blood. They were all spirit devil scorpions. Vicious energy overflowed to the heavens. When Lu Xingqian saw this, he couldn't help but feel his scalp tingle. Once bitten, twice shy. This was an instinctive fear. Rumble. Accompanied by a series of deafening noises, a giant scorpion that was hundreds of meters long emerged from the ground and entered everyone's line of sight. Its entire body was blood red, and it emitted a monstrous, baleful aura. His aura had already reached the peak of a 9-star combat emperor. When the other spirit scorpions saw it, they all retreated to the side and opened up a path for it. The giant scorpion walked out of the crowd, glanced at Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingqian, then looked up at the Scorpion Emperor and said respectfully, Emperor, there are 2 humans here. Which one are you referring to? Him. Scorpion King pointed at Lu Xingqian. The giant scorpion's eyes flashed fiercely as he stared at Lu Xingqian and laughed. With us here, don't even think about getting past. Lu Xingqian's eyes darkened. There was a group of scorpions blocking the way in front, and Qin Feiyang chasing after him with all his might. What should he do now? If he fought with the scorpions, he was confident that he could slaughter them all. But Qin Feiyang was not to be trifled with either. He would definitely think of a way to deal with him. Thinking of this, he turned to stare at Qin Feiyang and said in a deep voice, Do you have to fight to the death? But what responded to him was endless murderous intent. Not a single word. Qin Feiyang took a step forward. With the ancient castle above his head, he held the Chang Shui in his hand. The god of war on his body flickered with a dazzling purple-gold divine light. 3 divine artifacts with monstrous divine power. Furthermore, after a night of fighting, his shattered arm had long since recovered. At this moment, although he was riddled with wounds, his aura was even more astonishing than before, especially his fighting spirit. He felt that even if he was facing God now, he would still dare to fight. Crazy, really crazy. Lu Xingqian flew into a rage and hurriedly urged his divine sense to counterattack. I'm afraid you won't use your divine sense. Qin Feiyong smiled coldly. The ancient castle whizzed over and collided with the divine sense in the sky. Puff. Qin Feiyong spat out a mouthful of blood and stepped back. After persisting for so long, his internal organs had long since been shattered. It could be said that he could still stand now, relying entirely on the purple-gold dragon blood and the fire of life, as well as his unyielding will. And at the same time, his divine sense was also annihilated. Lu Xingqian's face became paler and paler. The weakness in his expression became more and more obvious. After a night of fighting, your divine sense should not be much left. Qin Feiyong snickered. After stabilizing his body, he immediately took the Changshui and the ancient castle to kill. Actually, although Lu Xingqian's strength was stronger than Qin Feiyong's, his situation was more passive than Qin Feiyong's. The only thing he could contend with Qin Feiyong was his divine sense. But divine sense was extremely important to him, and it would take a very long time to condense a strand of divine sense again. So, every time he consumed a strand of divine sense, his heart was bleeding. What he was most afraid of was to consume all of his divine sense. Because once there was no divine sense, not to mention Qin Feiyong, even Ling Yunfei and the others could easily kill him. After all, his current cultivation was only a 5-star combat emperor. Another one. He did not dare to let Qin Feiyong get close to him, because he was afraid of Changshui. Changshui was enough to instantly kill him. Enough. Seeing that Qin Feiyong was unwilling to give up, Lu Xingqian was extremely annoyed and said angrily, "Isn't it just 3 pieces of Kuei water essence? Can I return them to you?" He compromised. If he could suppress Qin Feiyong, it didn't matter. But the key was that he couldn't suppress Qin Feiyong now. Divine armor, battle character arts, fire of life, and purple gold dragon blood made Qin Feiyong have an immortal body. At the same time, it also made Lu Xingqian feel weak. He took out the jade box and threw it to Qin Feiyong. To be honest, such a compromise was a stain and a disgrace to him. But now, he had to do this, and he had to endure it. Qin Feiyong was slightly stunned. He reached out and grabbed the jade box. After checking it and confirming that it was the Kuei water essence, he put it away. "I've returned it to you. Can you stop now?" Lu Xingqian said angrily. "Stop? Since we've already fallen out, there's no turning back. Today, one of us must die here." Qin Feiyong smiled coldly and used phantom steps to approach Lu Xingqian. His aura was like a rainbow. "Bastard, what good will it do you to do this?" Lu Xingqian roared. "It's not good for me, but at least it can protect the future of Great Qin." "That's enough," Qin Feiyong said. "This sentence should be heard by the people of Great Qin. Otherwise, they'll never know who's protecting them," Li Jian and Lu Xingqian exclaimed. In the past, they didn't have a good impression of Qin Feiyong. But now, they only had respect for Qin Feiyong in their hearts. Other young people, such as the children of the wealthy families in the imperial capital, the children of the marquis, which one of them wasn't seeking pleasure and enjoying life. But Qin Feiyong was carrying a heavy burden that ordinary people couldn't. For the sake of Great Qin's empire and hundreds of millions of people, he gave up everything, even his life. They were all young people, but why was the difference so big? The young lady of Longfeng House smiled and said, "What Feiyong needs is not for everyone to understand him and forgive him. He only wants to have a clear conscience." Selfless dedication, as expected of the person favored by the late emperor, Li Jian muttered. Such a young master was worthy of support. Boom. During the conversation, Qin Feiyong and Lu Xingqian clashed again. Qin Feiyong's injuries worsened. Lu Xingqian also lost another wisp of divine sense. "Don't force me," Lu Xingqian said. His eyes were extremely sinister. "Cut the crap. Take out all your means and fight with me," Qin Feiyong shouted. The battle intent and aura exuding from his body became more and more terrifying. This became a clear contrast. Qin Feiyong, who had let go of everything, was simply a primordial beast, becoming more and more courageous as he fought. On the other hand, Lu Xingqian. He had too many concerns and cared too much about his own life, so he began to be restrained. Once this happened, even if he had the means to reach the heavens, he was destined to be defeated. Sure enough, next, the battle situation changed. He didn't know if Lu Xingqian was scared out of his wits by Qin Feiyang, or if it was because he didn't have much divine sense left. Other than when he was in a critical situation to save his life, he rarely used his divine sense. It was also because of this that Qin Feiyang gradually gained the upper hand. Boom. The battle continued for another half an hour. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang seized a gap and punched Lu Xingqian's shoulder. With a crack, Lu Xingqian's shoulder shattered on the spot, blood splashing in the sky. His whole body was like a meteorite, crashing into a giant mountain. The giant mountain, which was more than 1,000 feet high, was instantly annihilated. Then, it smashed into the ground. The ground cracked, and a deep pit of hundreds of feet suddenly appeared. "Boss is mighty." The crocodile emperor and the other 3 beasts immediately roared excitedly. Qin Feiyang ignored them and chased after them. He used the phantom steps and rushed into the deep pit like lightning, stepping on Lu Xingqian's chest. Lu Xingqian was about to get up, but with this step, his whole body sank into the soil, and blood spurted out of his mouth. Why did the frequency of using divine sense become so low? Are you looking down on me? Or is your divine sense about to be exhausted? Qin Feiyang looked down at him, his eyes extremely cold, with a hint of mockery. Even if my divine sense is exhausted, you can only dream of killing me. Lu Xingqian sneered. Is that so? Qin Feiyang grabbed Lu Xingqian's neck, hanging in the void like a little chick, and said, "Now, can you hide in the spatial divine item?" He certainly knew about spatial divine items. There were 2 ways to stop a person from entering a spatial divine item. The first way was to imprison. For example, using coercion to completely imprison the other party with coercion, the other party would not be able to enter the spatial divine item. The second way was Qin Feiyang's method at the moment. Grab the other party's body. Because once he caught Lu Xingqian, if Lu Xingqian entered the spatial divine item, he would go in with him. So, as long as he caught the other party's body, the other party would not dare to enter the spatial divine item again. In fact, Qin Feiyang really wanted Lu Xingqian to enter the spatial divine item now, because he had long been interested in Lu Xingqian's spatial divine item. Of course, what he was interested in was not the stone chamber. He had been to that stone chamber several times, but there was nothing there. What he was interested in was the world outside the stone chamber. According to what Lu Xingqian had revealed in the past, his spatial divine item was the valley in the desert of death. But whether it was true or not, no one knew. After all, it was only Lu Xingqian's side of the story. Chapter 1474. Lu Xingqian's face was as dark as water. "What's wrong? You're not going? Could it be that there's some shady business hidden in your spatial artifact?" Qin Feiyang sneered. Lu Xingqian was unmoved and said, "You know very well that even if I don't go to the spatial artifact, you can't kill me." As soon as he finished speaking, a wisp of divine sense swept out from the top of Lu Xingqian's head and floated above his head, emitting a great pressure. Qin Feiyang's pupils contracted. How much divine sense was hidden in this guy's sea of consciousness? Lu Xingqian said, "If you want to kill me, there will be plenty of opportunities in the future. Why do you want to fight to the death with me now?" Qin Feiyang was silent. Suddenly, his bloody eyes flashed with killing intent. Since they had already fought to this point, it would be a pity to give up halfway. It was better to fight to the end. As for who would die here in the end, it would be up to the heavens. Boom. But just as Qin Feiyang was about to make his move, an obscure, mysterious power rolled over from the distant void. This mysterious power came from behind Qin Feiyang. Ling Yunfei and the others were the first to be enveloped by the invisible power. Immediately, a scene that shocked the entire audience appeared. Everyone's cultivation level instantly dropped by a small realm. For example, Ling Yunfei. His cultivation level was originally a 9-star war emperor, but under the shroud of that mysterious power, his cultivation level dropped directly to an 8-star war emperor. What's going on? Everyone was bewildered. In an instant, the mysterious power enveloped Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingqian. Qin Feiyang's cultivation level also dropped from the peak of the 9-star War Emperor realm to the 9-star War Emperor realm. How is this possible? Qin Feiyang's face was blank. At the same time, Lu Xingqian's eyes flashed coldly. The divine sense floating above his head turned into a stream of light and blasted towards Qin Feiyang's right shoulder. Clang! Crack! The armor was fine. However, Qin Feiyang's right shoulder was shattered on the spot. Purple-gold dragon blood spurted out like a fountain. Qin Feiyang was sent flying, crashing heavily into the ground, blood gushing out of his mouth. I told you, you're going to kill me. Lu Xingqian chuckled, withdrew his divine sense, and disappeared without a trace in an instant. Feiyang. When Miss Longfeng and the others saw this, they quickly ran to Qin Feiyang's side and looked at him with concern. I'm fine. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. It was only his right shoulder that was shattered. It was not fatal. He got up from the ground. Meanwhile, that mysterious force quickly retreated, as if it had never appeared. Qin Feiyang turned around and looked in the direction where the mysterious energy had disappeared. That direction was the source of the water. Qin Feiyang shouted, Crocodile King, Scorpion King, Ant King, Spider King, go and take a look. I want to know who is behind this. Understood. The four beasts nodded and immediately turned around. They turned into streams of light and rushed towards the source of the water. Ling Yunfei looked at the water source with a gloomy expression and said, as far as I know, he's the only one who has the ability to make one's cultivation plummet among the people who entered the divine sight this time. You mean? Luo Qingzhu was surprised. Ling Yunfei nodded and said, that's right. It's Zhuge Mingyang's innate ability, destruction. It can't be him. Miss Longfeng shook her head and said, I saw it with my own eyes. He died in Feiyang's hands. It definitely can't be him. Ling Yunfei said, but only he can do it? That might not be the case. There are thousands of people who entered the divine ruins this time. You don't know all of them. Maybe one of them is hiding this ability, Miss Longfeng said. Ling Yunfei frowned. But Miss Longfeng's words were not without reason. Qin Feiyang did not say a word. He retracted his gaze and looked at the place where Lu Xingqian disappeared. Crack. His hands gradually clenched. A hint of hostility crept up between his brows. Luo Qingzhu comforted him. This is the will of the heavens. There's nothing we can do. Don't be angry. Sigh. Qin Feiyang sighed deeply. He put away Chang Shui and the castle, and the purple gold armor on his body also disappeared. When they saw his scarred body, Ling Yunfei and the other two could not help but turn pale. At this moment, other than Qin Feiyang's face, there was not a single place that was intact. His flesh was mangled. Who knew how many bones in his body were broken? Hurry up and heal your injuries. Miss Longfeng took out healing pills, regeneration pills, and bone replenishing pills and stuffed them into Qin Feiyang's mouth. Luo Qingzhu also took out these pills, but when she saw that Miss Longfeng was one step ahead of her, she silently put them away, looking a little disappointed. This scene was seen by Ling Yunfei. He sighed and patted Luo Qingzhu's shoulder with a comforting expression. Thank you. Qin Feiyang thanked the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix House and closed the battle character formula. Without the support of the battle formula, he immediately felt dizzy and weak. He directly fell into the arms of Miss Longfeng. After fainting, the battle formula automatically closed. His cultivation returned to a 4-star War Emperor. Boss. Feiyang. Ling Yunfei and Luo Qingzhu's expressions changed as they hurriedly went forward. Don't panic. He's just severely injured and fainted. He'll recover after resting for a while. Miss Longfeng checked Qin Feiyang's condition and looked at the two of them. The two of them heaved a sigh of relief. This battle formula is really shocking. At this moment, Lu Xingqian appeared out of thin air. Miss Longfeng immediately retreated with Qin Feiyang in her arms. Ling Yunfei and Luo Qingzhu also quickly retreated to Miss Longfeng's side, as if they were facing a great enemy. But Lu Xingqian didn't even look at them. It was as if these three people couldn't enter his eyes. He looked at the unconscious Qin Feiyang and sighed. If not for the battle formula, you would have already fallen. To be honest, Sometimes I really envy you, because the heavens care for you. Ling Yunfei shouted. You have done so many evil deeds, and you still want the heavens to care for you? Is that possible? Lu Xingqian raised his head and looked at Ling Yunfei. His eyes were calm. It was as if he was looking at an ant. He then looked at Qin Feiyang and muttered, Don't forget your promise to me. Of course, I also believe that you, Qin Feiyang, will not be a person who goes back on your word. Next, he raised his head to look at Miss Longfeng and the other two and said, Take good care of him. If he unfortunately dies, I will let you guys accompany him in death. With that, Lu Xingqian turned around, took a step forward, and quickly disappeared from their line of sight. At this time, only then did the three of them relax. Ling Yunfei said suspiciously, He actually told us to take good care of Qin Feiyang. What exactly is this bastard trying to do? He mentioned some promise more than once. I think he and Feiyang must have made some kind of deal in private. The Miss Longfeng pondered. Deal? Ling Yunfei and Luo Qingzhu looked at each other, their faces full of doubt. Previous chapter, next chapter, boom. Roar. Suddenly, an ear-splitting sound rang out from the water source. Then, the roars of the crocodile emperor and the other two beasts rang out, filled with anger. Let's go take a look. The three of them changed their expressions and quickly turned around to carry Qin Feiyang, rushing towards the water source. The water source no longer existed. The ground was filled with devastation. The water in the creek and lake had also evaporated under the 10 scorching suns. In front of a broken mountain ridge, the crocodile emperor and the other two beasts revealed their true forms. They stared coldly in front of them, their entire bodies overflowing with killing intent. Whiz. When Ling Yunfei and the other two brought Qin Feiyang here, they immediately asked, What happened? The four beasts were about to answer, but when they saw the unconscious Qin Feiyang, they hurriedly asked, What happened to Boss Qin? Ling Yunfei said, It's just a serious injury and a coma. It's fine. So it's like that. The four beasts heaved a sigh of relief. What's wrong with you guys? Why did you reveal your true forms? Ling Yunfei asked. We saw a human. The ant emperor said. Who? The three of them were bewildered. A dead man. The spider emperor said in a deep voice. A dead man. The three of them looked at each other. Could it really be Zhuge Mingyang? Time passed. 2 days passed. In a wooden building, Qin Feiyang slowly opened his eyes and looked at the roof in confusion. Where was this? Why had he never seen it before? And it wasn't hot at all here. Could it be heaven? Following that, a burst of pain came from his head. Images flashed across his mind one after another. Finally, a figure froze in his mind. It was Lu Xingqian. Lu Xingqian, consider yourself lucky this time, he muttered and began to look around. It turned out that this was a room. Now, he was lying on a bed, covered with a thin layer of bedding, and beside the bed sat a beautiful figure. It was the miss of the Longfeng Pavilion. But at this moment, she was lying on the edge of the bed. Her face turned sideways, her eyes closed, and she fell into a deep sleep. Qin Feiyang looked at that face and couldn't help but be lost in thought for a moment. This woman was really beautiful. Her exquisite facial features were like a masterpiece of heaven, without the slightest flaw. Her skin was soft and tender, and her figure was exquisite. It could be said to be perfect. This was a femme fatale. Just what kind of woman are you? Qin Feiyang muttered, and couldn't help but reach out his large hand, stroking that soft black hair. This action seemed to have alarmed the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, and she suddenly murmured. Qin Feiyang quickly retracted his arm. Just as he retracted his arm, the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion slowly raised her head, opened her sleepy eyes, and looked at Qin Feiyang. Seeing that Qin Feiyang had woken up, the sleepiness in her eyes immediately disappeared and was replaced by joy. Qin Feiyang asked, Why are you here? Aren't you talking nonsense? Of course I'm here to take care of you. Although her attitude was not good, the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's face was full of concern. She asked, How do you feel now? Not bad. Qin Feiyang nodded and teased. Why didn't I realize before that you have such a considerate side? It's not too late to realize it now. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion rolled her eyes at him. Qin Feiyang smiled embarrassedly and asked, "How long have I been unconscious?" 2 days. As the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion spoke, she helped Qin Feiyang sit up. "It's already been 2 days?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. "Yes." The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion nodded. "What about Lu Xingqian?" Qin Feiyang hurriedly asked. Chapter 1475. Left. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and said angrily, "Why didn't you stop him?" When the Miss of the Dragon Phoenix house heard this, she immediately frowned and said, "With our strength, can we stop him?" Qin Feiyang was stunned and said with a bitter smile, "I'm sorry, I was too anxious and didn't think that much." Thinking about it, it made sense. How terrifying was Lu Xingqian's consciousness? Even he had to use all his means to barely withstand it. Although the cultivation of the Miss of the Dragon Phoenix house and the others was not bad, in terms of means, they were still far from it. The Miss of the Dragon Phoenix house rolled her eyes at Qin Feiyang and asked, "Do you want to rest for a while more?" "No need." Qin Feiyang waved his hand, scanned the room suspiciously, and asked, "Where are we?" The Miss of the Dragon Phoenix house said, "In Ling Yunfei's spatial divine item." "No wonder it's so cool." Qin Feiyang suddenly realized and asked, "Did the Crocodile Emperor and the others find that person?" And the Miss of the Dragon Phoenix house nodded. "Who?" Qin Feiyang said. The Miss of the Dragon Phoenix house said, "You definitely won't believe it, but he is Zhuge Mingying." Qin Feiyang was stunned and said, "It's really him. But isn't he dead? Why is he still alive? Could it be that the one we killed back then was just his substitute?" "I've been thinking about it these past few days, but I really can't figure it out," the Miss of the Dragon Phoenix house said. Qin Feiyang was silent for a while and said, "Where are they now? Call them to see me immediately. I want to ask them face to face." The Miss of the Dragon Phoenix house said, "They accompanied you here for a day. Seeing that your injuries are more or less healed, they returned to their respective territories." "They went back?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. "They left just like that? Didn't they say that they would follow him? A bunch of bastards, going back on their word." "Don't misunderstand. They went back for no other reason than to give an explanation." The Miss of the Dragon Phoenix house smiled. "Explain what?" Qin Feiyang was puzzled. "Aren't they planning to go with you?" "Before I leave, I have to make a trip back and explain things to my subjects," the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house said. "So that's how it is. I thought they would leave just like that." Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. "Leave? Do you think they'll be willing to leave after seeing your tricks?" "That's enough. If you don't want to rest, then come down. Don't stay on the bed," the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house said. Qin Feiyang lifted the quilt and found that the clothes on his body had been changed, and there was no trace of blood. Did you help me change my clothes?" He raised his head to look at the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion and asked, "Is it possible?" The Miss of Longfeng House coldly snorted and said, "It was Ling Yunfei who helped you change it." "That's good." Qin Feiyang smiled. "What do you mean?" Miss Longfeng raised her eyebrows. "I've kept my chastity for so many years. If I were to be taken advantage of by you, it would be such a loss." Qin Feiyang chuckled. "You even dare to tease me? Are you courting death?" The Miss of Longfeng House's face darkened as she grabbed Qin Feiyang's arm. "Pain, pain, pain. You're abusing the wounded. Do you know that?" Qin Feiyang roared. "You know you're the most despicable?" The Miss of Longfeng House laughed coldly. Looking at the smile on the Miss of Longfeng House's face, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but feel guilty. He smiled embarrassedly and said, all right. It's my fault. I apologize to you." The Miss of Longfeng House remained silent. She just looked at him and didn't let go. At first, it was fine, but gradually, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. A moment later, the Miss of Longfeng House let go of Qin Feiyang and turned to walk outside. "Isn't it just a joke? Is there a need to be like this?" Qin Feiyang rubbed his bruised arm and said unhappily, "I don't care about others, but in front of me, you can't make any jokes." The Miss of Longfeng House stopped and said coldly. Then, she left without looking back. Qin Feiyong was stunned. He shook his head and muttered, "What a boring woman." Next, he walked to the window and looked outside. Outside was a courtyard. In the courtyard, there were some wild flowers planted. They were colorful and fragrant. Outside the courtyard was a pond. The water in the pond was so clear that one could see the bottom. The lotus leaves were like jade plates, verdant and glistening. The lotus flowers were slender and elegant like young girls, budding and waiting to bloom. In the water, there was also a school of small fish swimming happily. Among them, there was a small fish that was particularly eye-catching. It was only the size of a finger and looked extremely handsome. The school of fish treated it as their leader. That's right. It was the Kuan Pong. As for Ling Yunfei, Luo Qingzhu, and Li Jian, they were sitting cross-legged by the pond, closing their eyes and meditating. The miss of Longfeng House left the courtyard and walked to the pond. She smiled faintly and said, "He's awake." "He's awake?" The four of them opened their eyes and turned to look at the wooden building. Qin Feiyong waved his hand and turned into a ray of light. He flew out of the window and landed in front of everyone. "Young master."
Boss.
Feiyong. The four of them immediately stood up, their faces filled with joy. "I've made everyone worried these past few days." Qin Feiyong smiled apologetically. Ling Yunfei sized up Qin Feiyong and said, "From the looks of it, you haven't fully recovered yet." "Yes, not yet." Qin Feiyong nodded. Although his external injuries had already healed, there were still internal injuries. Moreover, these internal injuries probably wouldn't be able to recover even after half a month. Ling Yunfei asked, "Then should we continue to recuperate or go find Fatso and the others?" Qin Feiyong said, "Let's wait for Scorpion King and the others to come back." "Boss Qin, I'm back." "Speak of the devil." Scorpion King's voice came from outside. Ling Yunfei waved his hand and led Qin Feiyong and the others out of the spatial divine item. Scorpion King immediately entered their line of sight. However, Scorpion King's expression was extremely ugly. In fact, Qin Feiyong and the others could even sense a sense of passivity that couldn't be dispelled from it. "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyong was suspicious. Scorpion King jumped into Qin Feiyong's arms and cried out, "Boss, my underlings are all dead." "What?" Qin Feiyong's gaze trembled. Ling Yunfei and the others were also shocked. Li Jian said, "Scorpion King, this joke isn't funny at all." "I'm not joking. They're really all dead," Scorpion King said with grief and indignation. The few of them exchanged glances and Qin Feiyong asked, "What happened?" "I don't know either. When I returned, I saw corpses all over the ground. I searched everywhere, but I couldn't find a single living person in the entire mountain range." "Damn it, who did it?" Scorpion King roared. Qin Feiyong's expression darkened. "Let's go and take a look." The group left the water source immediately and headed for Scorpion King's territory. A moment later, when they entered Scorpion King's territory, the scene before them caused even Qin Feiyong and the others to feel their scalps tingle. The ground was filled with corpses as far as the eye could see. Blood dyed the mountains red. Some of the corpses were even rotting under the scorching sun. Ling Yun ran to one of the corpses and examined it. "Judging from the temperature here and the blood stains on the wounds, they should have died 2 days ago," he said in a deep voice. Luo Qingzhu looked at Qin Feiyong and said, "Wasn't that when you fought with Lu Xingchen 2 days ago?" "Bastard!" Qin Feiyong clenched his fists. There was no doubt. These spirit demon scorpions must have been killed by Lu Xingchen. Scorpion King had ambushed Lu Xingchen at the water source. Given Lu Xingchen's personality, he would definitely not let the matter rest. The miss of Longfeng House also thought of this. Her face was covered in frost as she looked at Scorpion King. "We're sorry for implicating your people. What does it have to do with you?" Scorpion King was puzzled. Qin Feiyong said, "According to our judgment, the one who killed your people should be Lu Xingchen." "Damn it, bastard. I swear that I will skin you alive." Scorpion King immediately roared, his anger soaring to the heavens. Qin Feiyong looked at Scorpion King and blamed himself. "It's my fault. I should have known that he would take revenge on you." Scorpion King shook his head. "I don't need your apology. I just want you to help me kill him." "Don't worry." Sooner or later, I will personally send him to hell, Qin Feiyang said. With a wave of his hand, battle chi rolled out. Giant peaks collapsed one after another, drowning the corpses one by one. The mists of Longfeng House sighed deeply and looked in the direction of the swamp. I wonder how the Crocodile Emperor, Ant Emperor, and Spider Emperor are doing? Qin Feiyang also turned to look, his eyes filled with worry. Phew. A moment later, Qin Feiyang exhaled and said, "It's useless to stand here and worry. Let's go to the castle and cultivate while waiting." Everyone nodded. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and a group of people immediately appeared in the castle. "Little brother, my condolences." The white-eyed wolf opened his eyes, looked at Scorpion King, and comforted him. "Big brother." The Crocodile Emperor ran to the white-eyed wolf with tears streaming down its face. Looking at the Crocodile Emperor's sorrowful look, Qin Feiyang clenched his fists again. His desire to kill Lu Xingqian was unprecedentedly strong. He looked at Ling Yunfei and the rest and said, "The rules of time here are different from the outside world. 10 days here is only 1 day outside. So, don't waste time." What? Everyone was stunned. 10 days in the castle was only 1 day outside? You must be kidding. Qin Feiyang did not explain. He consumed a healing pill and recuperated while imitating the 4th stroke of the attainment formula. Before entering the divine sight, he was already imitating the 4th stroke. Now, there was only a little left. He wanted to imitate it completely before the Crocodile Emperor and the other 2 beasts returned. This way, he could become a 5-star combat emperor. However, a 5-star combat emperor was far from enough. Because to kill Lu Xingqian, one must at least have the cultivation of a pseudo-god. The lady of the Dragon Phoenix house walked to Qin Feiyang's side and observed for a while. She frowned and said, "You just woke up. It's not right to consume so much battle chi." "I know what I'm doing." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "Heard about it." The lady of the Dragon Phoenix house did not say anything else. She silently retreated to the side and sat cross-legged, closing her eyes to rest. Time passed in a flash. Another 3 days passed. Early in the morning, the Crocodile Emperor and the other 2 beasts finally returned. However, the 3 beasts were in low spirits, and their expressions were filled with sorrow that could not be dispersed. Chapter 1476. There was dead silence in the castle. The Ant Emperor, the Spider Emperor, and the Crocodile Emperor lowered their heads, looking sad and silent, making the atmosphere particularly heavy. Qin Feiyang stood in front of the altar and looked at the 3 beasts. Ling Yunfei and the others did not ask, because they could see that the Ant Emperor and the other 2 beasts were in a bad mood, so they should calm down first. A moment passed. Qin Feiyang finally spoke. "The Scorpion Emperor's people were slaughtered, so he is very depressed now. What is the reason for you?" "What? Little Scorpion, your people were also slaughtered?" The 3 beasts trembled and looked up at the Scorpion Emperor in shock. The Scorpion Emperor nodded. Damn it! The 3 beasts were furious. Seeing this, Qin Feiyang and the others looked at each other, already having an answer in their hearts. The Crocodile Emperor looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "My people, as well as the Spider Emperor and the Ant Emperor's people, were also killed." "We have already guessed it," Qin Feiyang said. "Guessed it?" The Crocodile Emperor was slightly stunned and said angrily, "Do you know who did it?" "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. "Who?" The 3 beasts stared at Qin Feiyang, murderous intent filling their eyes. The Scorpion Emperor said in a deep voice, "According to Boss Qin's judgment, it should be Lu Xingqian." "Lu Xingqian." The 3 beasts gritted their teeth. Suddenly, the Ant Emperor said, "Wait, there is something strange." "What?" Everyone looked at him suspiciously. The Ant Emperor said, "The Crocodile Emperor's people died a little differently from mine, and the Spider Emperor's people." "Different?" Everyone looked at each other, their eyes full of surprise. The Miss of the Dragon Phoenix house asked, "What's the difference?" "The Crocodile Emperor's people were slaughtered, but the Spider Emperor's people and mine seem to have been sucked dry by something." The Ant Emperor said, "What? There is such a thing." Everyone's expression changed. The Ant Emperor said, "Their corpses seem to have been hollowed out. Only skin and bones are left. The Spider Emperor nodded as well. That's way too weird, Ling Yunfei murmured, sucking dry one's blood and qi, leaving behind only skin and bones. Just the thought of it made one's scalp tingle. The Ant Emperor said, furthermore, we even went to look for Zhuge Mingyang's corpse. Did you find it? Qin Feiyang asked. No. Only a pool of blood remains where he was originally buried, the Ant Emperor said. Why is this happening? Qin Feiyang clenched his fists. He had already killed Zhuge Mingyang. Furthermore, he was certain that Zhuge Mingyang had indeed died at that time. But why was he still alive? Qin Feiyang asked in a low voice, what exactly did you see in the water source 5 days ago? The Spider Emperor said, we saw Zhuge Mingyang. Are you sure? Qin Feiyang asked. Back then, he used the blood soul technique to control me. If it weren't for your help, I'm afraid I would have been used as cannon fodder by him and died somewhere. So, even if he turned into ashes, I would still recognize him. Of course I'm sure. The Spider Emperor said coldly. The Miss of the Dragon Phoenix House said, in that case, Zhuge Mingyang is not dead. It is a fact. How did he do it? How can a dead person come back to life? There must be something fishy about this. Ling Yunfei said. What is it? Could it be that someone has also taken over his body? Luo Qingzhu was surprised. Possession. Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled. Hearing the word possession, he immediately thought of Lu Xingchen. Also, the subjects of the Spider Emperor and the Ant Emperor were all sucked dry. Does this matter have something to do with Zhuge Mingyang? Luo Qingzhu said again. Every single one of these incidents seemed extremely strange and confusing, causing everyone to be completely clueless. Forget it. Don't think about it. When we see Zhuge Mingyang in the future, the truth will naturally be revealed. Ling Yunfei waved his hand and said. Everyone nodded. Qin Feiyang also closed his eyes and sensed the location of Fatso and the others through the slave seal. A moment later, he opened his eyes, revealing a look of surprise. What's wrong? The Miss of the Dragon Phoenix House asked. Qin Feiyang said, Fatso, Lu Zheng, Lu Hong, and the Spirit Snake Emperor. The 4 of them actually walk together. This is a good thing. If they meet, they can take care of each other. The Miss of the Dragon Phoenix House smiled. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Ling Yunfei asked, how far are they from us? Qin Feiyang said, very far, in the northwest direction, estimated to take 4 to 5 days. 4 to 5 days. Everyone looked at each other. Wasn't this miracle a little too big? With their current cultivation, 4 to 5 days was enough for them to cross the entire Great Qin Empire. Of course, except for the Sea of Reincarnation. How about this? Qin Feiyang looked at the Crocodile Emperor and the other 2 beasts and said, for us, the most important thing now is to improve our strength. The Crocodile Emperor waved its claws and said, now that we are all family, if you have any orders, just say it. Don't beat around the bush. I'm being unreasonable. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. Okay, I'll be straightforward. We want to cultivate in the castle, so I can only trouble the 4 of you to take us in turns. No problem. The 4 beasts nodded. Qin Feiyang looked at Li Jian and the other 2 and said, although the 2 of you have reached the peak of the 9-star combat emperor realm, you still have to continue to work hard and don't slack off. Okay, the 2 of them replied. Ling Yunfei's eyes flashed as he looked at Li Jian and the other 2 and asked, do you know the ultimacy of becoming a true god? The 2 of them shook their heads. Ling Yunfei said, didn't you ask the Grand Tutor? Yes. But the Grand Tutor said that this kind of thing needs to be comprehended by oneself, and others can't help. The 2 of them said, that's true. But I can give you hints. This old thing, he didn't even give you hints. What is he thinking? Ling Yunfei looked at them with disdain. Hints? The 2 of them were slightly stunned and immediately stared at Ling Yunfei with a burning gaze. Qin Feiyang glanced at the 2 of them and said, you know the ultimacy of becoming a true god too? Ling Yunfei said to himself, I've followed old Master Qin for so many years, of course I know. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. Ling Yunfei pondered for a while and said to himself, boss, I have a suggestion. Go ahead. Qin Feiyang said. I'll bring Li Jian and the other two and the four beasts to my space divine item and explain to them the ultimacy of becoming a true god, so that they can slowly comprehend it. Ling Yunfei said, Okay, but there's one thing you have to remember. They can't become a true god on the first level, because once they become a true god here, they will immediately be sent to the second level. Qin Feiyang said. I know. Ling Yunfei nodded. With a wave of his hand, he disappeared with Li Jian and the other two, the Crocodile Emperor and the other four beasts. Luo Qingzhu, the Miss of the Dragon Phoenix House, and the White-Eyed Wolf also entered a state of cultivation. After a while, Ling Yunfei appeared again with the Ant King and nodded to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang smiled. He left the ancient castle with the Ant Emperor and appeared outside. 10 suns hung in the sky. The entire earth seemed to have turned into a big furnace. In just a few breaths, Qin Feiyang was sweating profusely. He looked at the northwest direction for a long time and smiled at the Ant King. Do you remember the ultimacy of becoming a true god?
Yes.
The Ant King nodded and said, I feel that Ling Yunfei has already explained it very clearly, but I just can't figure it out. The ultimacy of becoming a true god is difficult to understand.
This matter can't be rushed. You have to take it slowly.
Maybe one day, you will have an epiphany. Qin Feiyang said. Really?
The Ant King looked at him suspiciously.
Of course. Qin Feiyang nodded and said with a smile, Then I'll have to trouble you today. Tomorrow, I'll ask the Spider Emperor to replace you. At that time, you can go to Ling Yunfei's spatial divine item and focus on comprehending the ultimacy of becoming a true god. Okay. The Ant King grinned. Qin Feiyang said, Show your true form. Okay. Immediately, the Ant King's body emitted strands of bloody light. Its palm-sized body expanded in the wind. In an instant, a huge monster appeared in front of Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang jumped up and landed on the back of the Scorpion King. He said, Don't act on your own if you encounter any trouble. Inform me immediately. Okay. The Ant King nodded. Qin Feiyang smiled. Now, the Ant King was truly following him. With a single thought, he disappeared. The exposed castle immediately sank and landed on the back of the Scorpion King. Inside the castle, Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the scene outside appeared. After confirming that the castle was on the back of the Ant King, he sent a voice transmission to the Ant King outside. You can set off now? Got it. The Ant Queen gave a silent response before spreading its claws and flying toward the northwest without even looking back. The scene in the castle was also moving. This meant that the castle had always been on the back of the Ant King. After watching for a while, Qin Feiyang turned around and walked to the front of the altar, continuing to copy the Xing character formula. But he did not disperse the scene in the void, because he could keep an eye on the situation outside through the scene. Similarly, if the castle fell from the back of the Ant King, he would be able to discover it immediately. Time passed by day. On the evening of the third day, the fourth stroke of the Xing character formula was finally completed. Boom! Qin Feiyang's cultivation base also broke through to the 5-star War Emperor in an instant. Ling Yunfei, Luo Qingzhu, and the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix House looked at Qin Feiyang's back with a trace of envy in their eyes. While practicing the divine art, he could also improve his cultivation base. Why did all the good things in the world fall on this guy? The Xing character formula had a total of 6 strokes. Qin Feiyang had already copied the 4th stroke, and there were still 2 strokes left. Soon, he would be able to master another divine art. Moreover, the 6-word divine art was more powerful than the other divine arts that Qin Feiyang had mastered. According to Qin Feiyang's judgment, even the divine dragon art could not be compared to the 6-word divine art. The Xing character formula is comparable to teleportation. I'm really looking forward to it. Qin Feiyang murmured, turned his head to look at the situation outside through the screen, and continued to copy the 5th stroke. These 3 days, the journey was very peaceful. On the first day, the Ant King led everyone on the journey. On the second day, the Spider Emperor. On the third day, which was today, the Crocodile Emperor led everyone on the journey. Of course, on the way, they would occasionally encounter some ferocious beasts. Chapter 1477. Time flew by. The next morning, summon the Scorpion King. Qin Feiyang said to Ling Yunfei without turning his head. Although the Crocodile Emperor and the other three beasts were used to the climate, they were still following him, and he could not be biased. It would be unfair if only one of them were to lead them on their journey. Ling Yunfei nodded. With a wave of his hand, the Scorpion King appeared out of thin air. Qin Feiyang retracted his arm and turned to look at the Scorpion King. How was it? How's your understanding of the profound meaning of becoming a god? It's too difficult. Until now, I still haven't figured out what it means. The Scorpion King sighed. There's no rush. Take your time. It's your turn to lead us today. Thank you for your hard work. Qin Feiyang smiled. The Scorpion King said unhappily, Aren't you treating me like an outsider? Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. Then, he appeared on the Crocodile Emperor's back with the Scorpion King. The Crocodile Emperor immediately laughed. I like boss's way of doing things. One day per person, fair and just. But this damn weather is really hot. That's enough. You've lived here for so many years, and you're still afraid of the heat? The Scorpion King despised. Don't say that. I'm really afraid of the heat. After all, I'm not like you. You and the Ant Queen have always been like this. It's normal that you're not afraid of the heat. But I've been living in the water source all these years. It's rare for me to be like this. The Crocodile Emperor said, Don't mention the water source. When I hear these words, I can't help but think of the wicked things you've done in the past. The Scorpion King snorted. Wicked? Do you know how to talk? This is called the capable. I'm more capable than you. The water source is such a good place. Of course, it's mine to enjoy. The Crocodile Emperor said in disdain. Can't both of you stop talking? Qin Feiyang was helpless. If he did not stop them, these two would definitely fight again. The Crocodile Emperor glanced at the Scorpion King and said, All right, I'll let it go for your sake. Fuck. It's me who doesn't want to argue with you. Do you understand? Do you think it's still the same as before? Now that you don't have any armor, killing you is as easy as flipping my hand. Scorpion Emperor said angrily. Say that again. The Crocodile Emperor was enraged. Wait, but suddenly, the Scorpion Emperor seemed to have discovered something and looked around in surprise. At this moment, they stood in the middle of a mountain range. The surrounding mountain ranges were stacked on top of each other, and just like the other places, it was completely bare. But there was a difference. There were stone holes of various sizes on each of the giant peaks. There was a fist-sized hole. There were also stone holes the size of a dustpan. In short, apart from the ground, this place was riddled with holes. What happened? The Crocodile Emperor was puzzled. Qin Feiyang also looked at Scorpion King suspiciously. The Scorpion King said in a low voice, Little Crocodile, do you still remember that a group of terrifying creatures came to invade your water source a few years ago? A few years ago, Crocodile Emperor lowered its head and recalled. Suddenly, it seemed to have thought of something as its gaze trembled slightly. Little Scorpion, are you talking about the blood-devouring bees? That's right. Scorpion King nodded. Qin Feiyang's heart skipped a beat. He also knew about the blood-devouring bees. It was an extremely ferocious social creature. Their horror was comparable to the blood-devouring scorpion. As long as it was a place they went, it would become a land of death. It was no exaggeration to say that. When the blood-devouring bees were dispatched, it was equivalent to locusts passing through, leaving nothing behind. Even if it was a beast with a higher cultivation than them, they could nibble it away bit by bit. Not even the bones would be left behind. The Crocodile Emperor was surprised. Why did you suddenly mention them? The Scorpion King looked around, swallowed its saliva, and said angrily, Are you stupid? Don't you know how to look carefully? This is their nest. What? The Crocodile Emperor's gaze trembled. It quickly looked around and muttered, Damn, it's really their nest. I was so careless that I didn't notice it. In the past, it had armor and was not afraid of any creature, because no one could break its defense. But now, it had given the armor to Qin Feiyang. Without its greatest reliance, it had to be on guard. Qin Feiyang was also on high alert, as if he was facing a formidable enemy. The Scorpion King pointed to the surrounding peaks and said to Qin Feiyang, "See those holes? That's where they are entrenched. Boss Qin, let's take a detour. You don't know how crazy these guys are. Anyone who provokes them will not have a good ending." The Crocodile Emperor was terrified. "When did you become so timid?" "I can't tell. Is there something strange here?" The Scorpion King said angrily. "What's strange?" The Crocodile Emperor was suspicious. "Look carefully. In fact, we are now deep in the blood-devouring bee's nest. Why hasn't a single one appeared?" The Scorpion King said, "Yeah, where did they go?" The Crocodile Emperor came back to its senses and asked in surprise. The Scorpion King's eyes flashed coldly. His battle aura rolled out and blasted towards a giant peak. There was a loud bang. The giant peak shattered, revealing a huge beehive. The beehive was about a few 100 feet in diameter, emitting a delicate fragrance. The fragrance came from the beehive's beehive. It was also the so-called honey, like stalactites, crystal clear. However, there was not a single blood-devouring bee in the beehive. Beehive. Qin Feiyang looked at the beehive's beehive with a gleam in his eyes. As everyone knew, beehive's beehive was usually formed by collecting all kinds of pollen over a long period of time. But blood-devouring bees were different. The beehive's beehive was refined from the flesh and blood of various beasts, and it was the essence of the flesh and blood. This kind of beehive was a great tonic for both beasts and humans. Not only did it have the effect of healing injuries, but it could also restore battle aura and prolong life. According to ancient records, the energy contained in a drop of beehive's beehive was equivalent to 1,000 battle aura pills and 1,000 healing pills. "Boss Qin, what are you thinking about? You're drooling." The Scorpion King snickered. Qin Feiyang came back to his senses, his face full of awkwardness. Scorpion King looked at the beehive and chuckled. "Don't be embarrassed. In fact, I've been drooling over this beehive for a long time. It's just that I couldn't find the opportunity because of the blood-devouring bee's protection." "Then what are you waiting for? Let's go and have a taste." Crocodile Emperor led Qin Feiyang and Scorpion King to the front of the beehive. It opened its mouth wide and swallowed 1/3 of the beehive in an instant. Awesome! As the beehive's beehive entered his mouth, he could feel a fragrance sweeping through his body. The fatigue from the day's journey was swept away in an instant. Crocodile Emperor showed a look of enjoyment. However, Scorpion King was exasperated and scolded. "Are you the reincarnation of a hungry ghost?" But Crocodile Emperor was immersed in the delicacy and was not in the mood to care. It swallowed another mouthful, and more than half of the beehive disappeared. The huge beehive was only left with a little bit. "Bastard, you're wasting God's gift." Scorpion King was hopping mad. "Why are you yelling? It's not like this is the only beehive." Crocodile Emperor rolled its eyes. As it spoke, it swallowed the rest of the beehive in one gulp. "Comfortable. I've never tasted such delicious food before. I've wasted my life." It burped and shook its head. It lay on the ground happily and slowly consumed the beehive. "Bastard!" Scorpion King scolded and waved its claws. A wave of battle chi swept out and blasted towards a giant peak on the left. The giant peak collapsed. Another beehive was exposed. However, this beehive was smaller than the one Crocodile Emperor had eaten. However, the beehive's beehive was no different. It shone with a milky white halo and smelled fragrant. There was not a speck of dust on it. "This is mine. Don't snatch it from me," Scorpion King said and transformed into its original form. It hurriedly ran towards the beehive. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. "What a bunch of foodies." Swoosh. With a wave of his hand, Ling Yunfei, Luo Qingzhu, Miss Longfeng, and the white-eyed wolf appeared. Looking at the beehive in front of Scorpion King, Ling Yunfei, Luo Qingzhu, and the white-eyed wolf's eyes lit up. Qin Feiyang turned to Ling Yunfei and said, "Call Li Jin and the Ant Emperor out to help." "All right." Ling Yunfei nodded. With a wave of his hand, Li Jin, Zhou Zheng, the Ant Emperor, and the Spider Emperor appeared. "Damn, there really isn't even a single blood-devouring bee? Since that's the case, then I won't be polite. Boss Qin, quickly prepare something to store the beehive." The rest of you, follow me to sweep." The ant emperor howled and pounced towards a giant peak like a hungry wolf. Ling Yunfei, Li Jian, and the spider emperor also immediately moved and rushed towards a giant peak. Miss Longfeng laughed. "I really didn't expect to encounter such a treasure. With this beehive, even if we don't have battle chi pills in the future, it's enough for us to consume for a while." Luo Qingzhu also laughed. No, no, no. I'm guessing that there's probably a beehive in all the mountains in this area. If that's the case, then this beehive is enough for us to consume for decades. Qin Feiyong waved his hand. Miss Longfeng glanced at the surrounding giant peaks and smiled. "I'll go and try it too." "I'll go too," Luo Qingzhu said. Qin Feiyong also rushed to a giant peak and shattered it with a punch. A 50 to 60 zhang tall beehive appeared. He stretched out his finger, dipped it in the beehive, and put it in his mouth. His first impression was that it was sweet and delicious. Following that, a huge amount of energy surged into his body. In just a few breaths, he was pleasantly surprised to find that the battle chi he had consumed to copy the line formula had actually recovered. The rumors are true. A drop of beehive is comparable to 1,000 battle chi pills and healing pills. Qin Feiyong was wild with joy and hurriedly took out his cosmos bag. But in the end, he froze there. Originally, he wanted to find something to store the beehive, but there was no such large capacity in the cosmos bag. Qin Feiyong turned to look at Scorpion Emperor, Ling Yunfei, and the others. Everyone had already found more than a dozen beehives. They were of different sizes, but the smallest beehive was more than 100 zhang in diameter. How much beehive was there? It was estimated that it could gather into a small lake. Even if the castle was used as a container, it wouldn't be able to hold it. How should he deal with it? For a moment, Qin Feiyong didn't know what to do. Suddenly, a thought flashed through his mind, and he already had an idea. Chapter 1478. No one knew when the blood-devouring bees would return, so they had to speed up. In addition to Li Jian, Zhou Zhang, and the Crocodile Emperor, Luo Qingzhu and the Miss of the Dragon Phoenix House were also busy. Ling Yunfei rushed in front of Qin Feiyong and asked, "What's the matter?" Qin Feiyong said, "I didn't bring the ancient pagoda in, so I'll leave these beehives in your spatial divine object first." "Hee, aren't you afraid that I'll take it all for myself?" Ling Yunfei laughed evilly. "Try it." Qin Feiyong smiled playfully. Ugh. Ling Yunfei was stunned, then shook his head and laughed, entering the spatial divine object to set it up. Qin Feiyong also followed him to the top of a mountain, paying attention to the surrounding situation. Not long after, Ling Yunfei appeared, and then brought the beehives into the spatial divine object and kept going back and forth. Time was like sand between one's fingers, passing in a flash. No one knew how much time had passed. In short, all the beehives within a radius of 500 miles had been swept away. Everyone's faces were filled with happy smiles. Although there were countless treasures in the miracle, the battle chi pill was the most troublesome problem for everyone. Because until now, they had not found a single medicinal ingredient for the battle chi pill. The key was, everyone could not do without the battle chi pill. Whether it was cultivation or fighting, they needed it. The beehive was undoubtedly a timely rain that helped them solve this problem. Suddenly, Qin Feiyong's gaze focused as he looked towards the northwest. Faintly, he seemed to have sensed a battle fluctuation coming from afar, but it was very weak. For a moment, he wondered if it was an illusion. After pondering for a while, his eyes flashed as he jumped down from the top of the mountain and landed on the ground below. He said to Ling Yunfei and the others, "You guys be careful, I'll go to the front and take a look." After saying that, without waiting for anyone to respond, he used the phantom steps and left without looking back. What is he going to do? Ling Yunfei was suspicious. Who cares? Collecting the beehive is more important, the Ant Emperor said. The boundless land was filled with desolation. Although the divine ruins were restricted by the power of rules and couldn't fly, their running speed could still be maximized. At this moment, Qin Feiyong was like a bolt of lightning, traveling through the great earth as fast as lightning. Suddenly, he stopped and closed his eyes. A moment later, he opened his eyes again, and two beams of light shot out. It wasn't an illusion. There really were battle waves coming from the front. Although it was still very weak, as he got closer, he could clearly sense it. "This is the territory of the blood-devouring bees," Qin Feiyang murmured. Suddenly, his gaze trembled. Was someone fighting with the blood-devouring bees? Who was so bold? Whoosh! He used phantom steps again and continued to rush forward. The distance was getting closer and closer. The fluctuations from the battle were getting more and more intense. Several hundred breaths passed. Gusts of strong wind blew. The giant peaks of different heights in front of him were also swaying like leaves in the wind. The earth was also trembling. The rumbling sounds became clearer and clearer. As he continued to go deeper for a period of time, Qin Feiyang felt like he was in the middle of a storm. Waves of battle waves surged toward him. Boom! Crack! At the end of the land in front of him, the mountains continued to collapse, and the rumbling sounds were deafening. The ground was also crazily cracking. Looking from afar, the dust billowed, covering the sky and the sun, as if it was the end of the world. This fluctuation is at least a confrontation between 9-star combat emperors, Qin Feiyang murmured. Another period of time passed. He suddenly braked and immediately hid behind a huge rock next to him. Then, he carefully poked his head out and looked ahead. In front, dust billowed, covering everything. Just in the dust, Qin Feiyang vaguely saw that the ground was covered by a layer of blood-red light. Of course, this alone was not enough to make him stop. The real reason that made him stop was that he sensed countless terrifying auras in the dust. These auras contained an astonishing, ferocious, and ruthless aura, like a group of demons lurking there, giving Qin Feiyang a great sense of danger. Could they be blood-devouring bees? Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. Suddenly, he activated the concealment technique, and his entire person instantly disappeared into the void. Immediately, he walked out in a dignified manner. A moment later, he entered the dust zone and finally saw the true face of the blood-red light. It was blood-devouring bees. Their appearance was very similar to hornets, but the difference was that they were blood-red. Their long and narrow eyes were also blood-stained, suffused with a terrifying murderous light. Kill! Each of them was the size of a fist, and like a tide, they surged forward one after another. While seeing these blood-devouring bees, Qin Feiyang also sensed a few human auras. But because they were mixed with the blood-devouring bees' auras, it was not easy to distinguish. After carefully sensing for a while, his face suddenly surged with ecstasy. Immediately after, he hurriedly rushed forward, because he was able to identify the auras of those humans. They were the auras of Fatso, Phantom Snake Emperor, Lu Hong, and Lu Zheng. He really did not expect to meet them here. But calculating the time, it was about time. It had been 3 days since they set off from the Scorpion King's territory. Although it was estimated that it would take at least 4 or 5 days to meet up with Fatso and the others, there was no delay along the way, so it saved a lot of time. Dozens of breaths later, he went deep into the swarm. Finally, on the ground in front, he saw Fatso and the other two and Phantom Snake Emperor. They were surrounded by the swarm of bees, and all of them were scarred, especially Lu Zheng. His cultivation and strength were stronger than Lu Hong, Fatso, and Phantom Snake Emperor, but he had been protecting Lu Hong behind him, fighting a bloody battle. Even in the face of despair, he did not take a step back. Qin Feiyang was about to rescue them, but suddenly, further ahead, he sensed another familiar aura. How could it be him? Qin Feiyang was surprised. The owner of this aura was Gongsun Bei, and there were more than a dozen unfamiliar human auras around Gongsun Bei. These auras were very strong, and all of them had reached the 9-star combat emperor level. There were even 4 auras that had reached the peak of the 9-star combat emperor level. Could it be the people from the main tower? Qin Feiyang muttered. Beast! An angry shout rang out. Qin Feiyang hurriedly looked over and immediately saw a palm-sized blood-devouring bee piercing through Lu Zheng's left shoulder like an arrow. A bloody hole suddenly appeared, and blood gushed out. Lu Hong's beautiful face also turned pale, because she was behind Lu Zheng. After the blood-devouring bee pierced through Lu Zheng's left shoulder, it bared its fangs and brandished its claws toward Lu Hong. Its blood-red eyes flashed with a bloodthirsty light. "Beast, you're courting death." Lu Zheng roared and grabbed the blood-devouring bee with a backhand. His battle chi surged as he crushed the bee into pieces. Blood splattered across the sky. Seeing that Lu Hong was fine, he heaved a sigh of relief. But then, he knelt on the ground powerlessly, his face pale. "Are you okay?" Lu Hong hurriedly stepped forward, took out a healing pill, and stuffed it into Lu Zheng's mouth. She was concerned. Lu Zheng clutched his left shoulder, slowly got up, and smiled. "As long as you can live, even if I die, it's worth it." "Silly." Lu Hong scolded angrily, but there was a trace of emotion in her eyes. "I'm talking about the two of you. Fat Lord doesn't object to dating, but can't you pick a better time?"
Fatso, who was next to him, roared.
"Yes." Phantom Serpent Emperor nodded, also very dissatisfied. There were too many blood-devouring bees, and it was impossible to kill them all. If this continued, everyone would die here. "You talk too much." Lu Zheng glared at them, turned around, grabbed Lu Hong's hand, and said in a deep voice, "Don't worry, no matter how many blood-devouring bees there are, I will definitely take you out today." Looking at the face in front of her, which was full of concern, Lu Hong could not help but be absent-minded. Seeing this, Lu Zheng laughed and said, "Are you starting to like me? Oh my God. You're still thinking about picking up girls." Fatso and Phantom Serpent Emperor looked at the sky speechlessly. "You talk too much." Lu Zheng was extremely angry. He suddenly turned around, and his battle chi rolled out. He shouted, "Phantom Moon!" In an instant, 50 black moons appeared out of nowhere, exuding a world-destroying aura. "Bastards! Destroy all of you! Kill!" Lu Zheng roared, and the 50 black moons were like meteorites, blasting in all directions. Boom! Crack! Accompanied by a loud sound, a large number of blood-devouring bees within 100 miles were killed in an instant. The ground collapsed, and ditches appeared everywhere. "Let's go." However, Lu Zheng did not continue to fight. With a wave of his hand, he led Lu Hong and killed their way out. At this moment, he was like a god of death, unstoppable. Fatso and Phantom Serpent Emperor followed closely on his left and right. But there were too many blood-devouring bees. Moreover, many of these blood-devouring bees had the cultivation of a war emperor. Even if Lu Zheng had mastered the divine art, it would be difficult for him to do it alone. Lu Hong said angrily, "Damn Fatso, hurry up and show me your true ability." Fatso snorted coldly, "Don't some people want to be a hero and save the beauty? Of course, Fat Lord will fulfill his wish." "Bastard, are you looking for a beating?" Lu Zheng shouted. As long as one was not a fool, one could tell that Fatso was obviously talking about him. "SK." Fatso raised his middle finger, his eyes full of disdain. "Dragon transformation art. Activate." Immediately, he let out a low shout. His aura changed drastically. His body was also changing. Black dragon scales emerged from his skin and covered his entire body. His body was also rapidly growing in size. With a poochie sound, his clothes were torn apart, leaving only a pair of underpants. In the end, what appeared before everyone's eyes was a person with a dragon's body, dragon claws, and dragon scales. He had transformed into a black dragon warrior. Moreover, Fatso's cultivation was also soaring crazily, and in the end, it had increased by a total of 4 small realms. "Damn, you still have such a heaven-defying battle art?" Lu Zheng was dumbfounded. "It's a surprise." Fatso smiled proudly. Lu Zheng was immediately furious and roared, "If you have such a powerful method, why didn't you use it earlier? Didn't I say that I wanted to give you a chance to perform? Otherwise, how would you win Xiaohong's heart?" Fatso laughed sinisterly. Hearing this, Lu Zheng glanced at Lu Hong with a smile in his eyes. Chapter 1479. Fatty smiled embarrassedly and immediately attacked, easily destroying a swarm of blood-devouring bees that pounced at him. Lu Zheng smiled and said, With Fatso joining us, you don't have to worry anymore. Humph. I finally understand that all of you are treating me like a vase. I don't need your protection. White Dragon battle suit. Lu Hong snorted coldly, and wisps of battle chi appeared. Her body emitted a dazzling radiance. A white battle suit materialized on her body. The battle suit was in the style of a long skirt. It was as light as a feather and as soft as silk. The moment the battle suit appeared, Lu Hong's cultivation also surged by 4 small realms. Her sleeves fluttered, and her hair danced. Her entire body was enveloped by the radiance, and she exuded a sacred aura. At this moment, she was like a fairy who had returned from the heavens, displaying her beautiful figure. Damn! Lu Zhang was once again dumbfounded. Fatso smiled sinisterly. Her white dragon technique is similar to my dragon transformation technique, so don't underestimate her. Shut up! Lu Hong glared at him and shouted. Then, she swept past Lu Zhang and charged into the swarm of bees. How is it? Don't you feel very unconfident now? Fatso moved to Lu Zhang's side and laughed softly. Get lost. Lu Zhang's face darkened. He looked at Lu Hong's back, and a look of amazement flashed across his eyes. He muttered, This is the woman that I, Lu Zhang, want. Honger, wait for me. He hurriedly chased after her. It's over. This kid has gone berserk. Fatso shook his head. The Spirit Serpent Emperor glanced at Lu Zhang and Lu Hong, then turned to look at Fatso and said angrily, I say, do you guys understand the situation? Do you still have the mood to joke at a time like this? This is called mentality, do you understand? Don't be so serious. Even if we die in the end, we have to die happily. Fatso chuckled and quickly chased after him. Die happily? The Spirit Serpent Emperor was stunned for a moment before it cursed angrily. What a bunch of lunatics! Qin Feiyang followed behind the 3 people and 1 beast. Originally, he wanted to help, but when he saw Lu Hong and Lu Zhang's situation, he had an idea. Why not help the 2 of them? Initially, he had noticed that the way Lu Hong looked at Lu Zhang was slightly different from before. He was touched. There was warmth. There was also a trace of complicated feelings. This meant that regardless of their current relationship, at least Lu Zhang had already opened Lu Hong's heart. This was an opportunity. He had long known about Lu Hong's feelings for him. However, feelings could not be forced, so he could only apologize. Therefore, he sincerely hoped that Lu Hong and Lu Zhang could be together. After all, Lu Zhang had both the family background and the talent he needed. Most importantly, after spending some time together, he realized that Lu Zhang was actually a very responsible man even though he appeared to be a wanton and unrestrained person. Moreover, Lu Zhang was also his cousin. He was relieved that Lu Hong and Lu Zhang were together. Although Lu Hong did not have any feelings for Lu Zhang now, feelings were something that could be cultivated slowly. Especially in this kind of life-and-death environment and atmosphere, it was easy to develop feelings for each other. After all, women all yearned for a man to stand in front of them and protect them. Boom. Crack. The 3 people and 1 beast unleashed their iron-blooded methods and killed crazily, leaving behind a sea of corpses. Let's work harder. If nothing goes wrong, we can definitely kill our way out. Fatso roared excitedly as if he had been injected with chicken blood. You want to escape? Are you dreaming? But before he finished speaking, a bone-chilling voice suddenly sounded not far away. Fatso raised his eyebrows and looked up. He saw a fan-sized, blood-devouring bee laughing at him, its eyes full of mockery. You dare to laugh at me? You really don't know what's good for you. Fatso was furious. He jumped up and pounced on the blood-devouring bee like an arrow. Hee hee. The blood-devouring bee laughed sinisterly and retreated like lightning. At the same time, it raised its head and let out an ear-piercing shriek. Not good. Lu Hong's expression changed and she shouted, It's informing the 9-star combat emperor's blood-devouring bee. Don't tangle with it. Leave quickly. Fatso's heart also sank. He quickly returned to Lu Hong and Lu Zhang's side and tried his best to kill the swarm of bees in front of him. I hope Gongsun Bei and the others can stall the 9-star combat emperor's blood-devouring bees. The Spirit Snake Emperor was worried. Although Fatso and Lu Hong had shown their true strength, they were still a little weak against the 9-star combat emperor's blood-devouring bees. As for Lu Zheng, even if he mastered the Fire Phoenix art, it would be difficult for him to fight against the swarm of blood-devouring bees. Damn humans! You killed so many of our people. Go to hell. Suddenly, accompanied by angry roars, more than a dozen blood-devouring bees charged over like lightning. Wherever they passed, the earth trembled and mountains shattered. Moreover, they were different from the netherworld bees here. They were as big as a dustpan, and their terrifying aura swept in all directions. They are all 9-star combat emperors. Qin Feiyong glanced at the blood-devouring bees and muttered to himself. He then turned back to look at Fatso and the others. At this moment, Fatso and the other two and the Spirit Snake Emperor were running for their lives. But there were too many blood-devouring bees in front of them. Moreover, seeing the 9-star combat emperor's blood-devouring bees charging over, they became even crazier and continued to charge forward. This made it impossible for Fatso and the others to unleash their maximum speed. Seeing that the 9-star combat emperor's blood-devouring bees were about to reach them, Lu Zheng gritted his teeth and suddenly turned around. With a destructive aura, he charged forward. Fatso roared, "Lu Zheng, what are you doing?" Lu Zheng roared without turning back, "I will stay behind to stop them. You guys go quickly." "No. If you want to go, let's go together," Lu Hong said. "Don't be silly. From the moment we were surrounded by them, I already knew that we would not be able to escape today. You guys go quickly. It is better for me to sacrifice myself than to be completely annihilated," Lu Zheng said without turning back. A wave of fire soared into the sky. A divine seal as big as a mountain and a phoenix surrounded by divine light instantly appeared above his head, exuding a monstrous divine aura. These were the first and second forms of the Fire Phoenix technique, Fire Phoenix Seal, Phoenix Cry. "I did not expect that I, Lu Zheng, would actually fall into the hands of you beasts here. Fortunately, my little cousin is not here. Otherwise, he would definitely laugh at me. Come on, let me see how capable you are." Lu Zheng raised his head and laughed wildly. The Fire Phoenix seal expanded in the wind, shaking the sky and whistling forward. Chirp. At the same time, the phoenix circling in the sky also let out a high-pitched phoenix cry. A formless sound wave immediately surged towards the dozen blood-devouring bees like a tidal wave. Ants, however, facing the two great divine techniques, the blood-devouring bees were completely fearless. Blood-colored battle chi surged out of their bodies, turning into a torrent that flooded the sky and surged out in all directions. Boom! High up in the sky, the Fire Phoenix seal met the blood-colored battle chi first. With a deafening sound, the Fire Phoenix seal shattered on the spot. Following closely, the blood-colored battle chi rushed toward the sound wave with irresistible force. The sound wave could not stop it at all. Puff! Lu Zheng spat out blood from his mouth. This was the difference in cultivation level, and it was an overwhelming difference. Even if Lu Zheng had a divine technique, he could not reverse the situation. Boom! Under the impact of the blood-colored battle chi, the Fire Phoenix let out a wail and collapsed. After the Fire Phoenix collapsed, the blood-colored battle chi rushed toward Lu Zheng again. That shocking murderous aura and that unresolvable ferocity made him feel as if he had fallen into a bottomless abyss. His body and mind were cold. He hurriedly turned his head to look behind and saw that Lu Hong, Fatso, and the Phantom Snake Emperor were still there. He could not help but shout anxiously, "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and leave." The two people and one beast were not idle either. They fought with the other blood-devouring bees. It was hard to tell who would win. Impossibly stupid, Lu Zheng cursed angrily. He turned to stare at the blood-devouring bees and shouted, "The third style of the Fire Phoenix technique, Emperor of all spirits." As soon as he said this, the sky changed color. Blood-red clouds rolled in from the horizon. The sky above turned into a sea of fire in an instant. The void and the ground were illuminated in red light. Boom! In the next moment, a divine statue appeared above Lu Zheng. It was a middle-aged man. He was 7 feet tall and straight like an iron pine tree. He stood on the fire phoenix and held a long spear in his hand. His sharp eyes looked down at the world like an emperor who ruled over all directions. He was domineering and domineering. Ancestor of the Lu family, Qin Feiyang looked at the divine statue with respect in his eyes. He had seen this divine statue in the Lu family's land of inheritance. It was also this divine statue that had given him the inheritance. Ancestor, it's up to you whether or not we can escape alive today. The Lu family looked at the divine statue and muttered to himself. His eyes were filled with murderous intent as he waved his hand. Clang! The divine statue took a step forward and stomped on the blood-colored battle chi. A loud explosion shook the heavens and the earth. The divine statue was immediately sent flying. Lu Zheng spat out a mouthful of blood, but he did not dare to look away. He stared at the divine statue and roared in his heart. Ancestor, work harder and crush it, boom. The divine statue stomped again, and the blood-colored battle chi finally dissipated. The dozens of blood-devouring bees also suffered from the backlash and spat out blood. Haha, Ancestor's power is indeed impressive. Kill. Lu Zheng laughed wildly and roared. The divine statue immediately turned around and stepped into the air. He raised the long spear in his hand and slashed at the dozens of blood-devouring bees. Thousands of spear shadows shattered the earth. Thousands of blood-devouring bees did not even have time to scream before they turned into a bloody mist. Human, you deserve to die. The dozens of 9-star combat emperor blood-devouring bees were furious when they saw this scene. Boom! Blood-colored waves rose from behind them. More than a dozen beasts appeared in an instant. These were their fighting souls. The appearance of the fighting souls was the same as their bodies. But the difference was, the size of the fighting souls was very large. Each fighting soul was a few 100 feet tall, like a huge mountain. Moreover, these fighting souls were not only blood-red, but their eyes were also glowing with a touch of golden light as if they were cast in gold. Roar! Chapter 1480. Boom! Divine light bloomed in the sky. More than a dozen fighting souls whizzed over. Accompanied by loud clanging sounds, the long spear collapsed and the statue was destroyed. Lu Zheng was sent flying, blood gushing out of his mouth. His face was drained of blood. But there was still one fighting soul left. This fighting soul shook the sky and roared towards Lu Zheng. Looking at this scene, Qin Feiyang shook his head. There was no doubt that the Fire Phoenix technique was powerful, but Lu Zheng's cultivation was still too weak. Quick! At the same time, Fatso shouted. The two men and one beast quickly killed a bloody path in front of Lu Zheng. Their battle chi surged and turned into a huge wave that rushed towards the fighting soul. Lu Zheng's expression changed and he shouted, "You are no match for it. Get out of the way." But it was too late. The fighting soul whizzed over, and the huge wave was instantly annihilated. Fatso, Lu Zheng, and the Phantom Serpent Emperor were immediately sent flying. Their bodies were shattered and blood stained the ground. Lu Zheng said angrily, "Why are you so stupid? I told you to run, so run. What are you waiting for? If we die together. If we live together." Lu Hong said. Lu Zheng was furious. But suddenly, he rolled his eyes and got up in a sorry state. He staggered to Lu Hong's side and said, "Don't tell me you can't bear to part with me. Get lost." Lu Hong was extremely angry. Why was he still so frivolous at this time? "I'm not frivolous. Can't you see that I'm very serious?" Lu Zheng looked aggrieved. He looked up at the fighting soul roaring and sighed. "Hong, since you're going to die anyway, can you promise me a small request?" "What?" Lu Hong got up and looked at him in confusion. Lu Zheng said, "Kiss me? Are you asking for a beating?" Lu Hong's face was dark. "This is my only wish. Won't you fulfill it?" Lu Zheng looked at her pitifully. Lu Hong was so angry in her heart. In a life-and-death situation, he actually had the mood to think about these things. What was in this person's head? Suddenly, Lu Zheng took the initiative to lean forward and gave Lu Hong a fierce kiss on her face without holding back. Lu Hong was stunned. How dare he sneak attack her? She touched her face and glared at Lu Zheng, feeling her cheeks burning. It smells so good. Now, I can die without regrets. Lu Zheng chuckled and turned to look at Zhan Hun. A cold glint flashed in his eyes. Without turning his head, he shouted, I'll give you another chance. Leave now. Boom. Waves of fire soared into the sky like giant dragons. Fourth style, rising from the ashes. Chirp. In an instant, a huge fire phoenix spread its wings and flew out from the waves of fire. Its body was tens of thousands of feet long. When it spread its wings, it blotted out the sky and covered the sun. Its divine might rolled out in all directions. Go, Lu Zheng roared. However, the two men and one beast did not leave. They rushed to Lu Zheng's side and stood side by side. The battle chi in their sea of chi poured out without reservation. You? Lu Zheng glared at them angrily. Don't say anything. As a brother, I can't leave you behind and escape alone. Fatso waved his hand. Lu Hong and Spirit Snake Emperor's eyes were also incomparably firm. You guys. Sigh. Lu Zheng sighed and said with a smile, Honger? Yes. Lu Hong replied. Lu Zheng said, if we survive this disaster, can you promise me a small request? Again? The corners of Fatso and Spirit Snake Emperor's mouth twitched. Lu Hong also looked at him warily. Don't worry. I won't do any more surprise attacks. I just want to say that if we survive this disaster, can you promise me to go on a date with me? Lu Zheng said helplessly. This, Lu Hong hesitated, but looking at the approaching battle soul, she gritted her teeth and nodded. If we can really escape this disaster, I promise you. Ha! Lu Zheng suddenly laughed and shouted. For this date, even if I have to risk my life, I have to escape. Kill. He waved his hand, and the fire phoenix in the sky roared and pounced on the battle soul with a destructive aura. With a loud bang, the battle soul disintegrated and dissipated into the world. The fire phoenix soared into the sky, flames surging around its body, and continued to pounce on more than a dozen blood-devouring bees. Is there any use in struggling? The blood-devouring bees' eyes were full of contempt. Blood-colored battle chi surged. A blood dragon condensed and formed. Roar. Chirp. The dragon and phoenix fought, and the world lost its color. Boom. The stalemate lasted for a moment. With a deafening sound, the fire phoenix disintegrated. Puff. Lu Zheng's body and mind trembled. He could not stop retreating, and his life force was gradually dissipating. Lu Zheng. Lu Hong quickly turned and ran up, grabbing Lu Zheng's arm, her face full of concern. Hee. Seeing you worry about me, even if I die, it's worth it. However, I won't die so easily. Rebirth. Fire Phoenix. Lu Zheng grinned and roared into the sky. Rebirth? Lu Hong, Fatso, and the Spirit Serpent Emperor were surprised. Chirp. In the next moment, a shocking scene appeared. The fire phoenix that had been disintegrated by the blood dragon appeared again and collided with the blood dragon in the sky. Destructive waves of air swept in all directions. The two humans and one beast were dumbfounded. This is the fourth style of the fire phoenix technique, rising from the ashes. As long as I don't die, it will continue to be reborn, Lu Zheng said proudly. Fatso said in surprise, if that's the case, doesn't that mean we're invincible? Wrong. If my cultivation was higher by 2 or 3 small realms, I would indeed be invincible, but now, defeat is only a matter of time. Lu Zheng sighed. Fatso's heart sank as he looked around. The other blood-devouring bees were also charging towards them from all directions. It was a sea of blood. Who knew how many there were? Facing such a situation, was there any hope of survival? Suddenly, the swarm of bees that were surging towards them stopped. The few of them were surprised. What was going on? Why did they stop? But then, an even more surprising scene appeared. The blood-devouring bees from all directions not only stopped, but also began to retreat quickly. The 3 humans and 1 beast looked at each other, then raised their heads in unison and looked at the dozen or so 9-star combat emperor blood-devouring bees. But the result disappointed them greatly. The dozen or so blood-devouring bees had no intention of retreating. The blood dragon had also been fighting with the fire phoenix. What does this mean? The 3 humans and 1 beast were puzzled. Why did the other blood-devouring bees retreat? Suddenly, a strong sense of uneasiness swept through their bodies and minds. The 3 humans and 1 beast quickly scanned their surroundings. There was nothing unusual around, but the ground under their feet began to tremble violently. Boom! In the next moment, the ground cracked open, and a blood-devouring bee the size of a dustpan burst out from the ground. Retreat. Lu Zheng's expression changed, and he quickly retreated with Lu Hong and the other 2, as well as the Phantom Snake Emperor. But that blood-devouring bee also had the cultivation of a 9-star combat emperor, and it was as fast as lightning, heading straight for Lu Zheng. Bastard! You are 9-star emperor beasts, and you actually used such a despicable method of sneak attack. How despicable! Lu Zheng roared angrily, but before he finished speaking, the ground behind him also cracked open, and another blood-devouring bee the size of a dustpan swept out like lightning. The appearance of this blood-devouring bee was simply too unexpected. The 3 humans and 1 beast couldn't help but close their eyes in despair. But at this moment, a white figure suddenly appeared behind them. It was Qin Feiyang. He looked at the blood-devouring bee with murderous intent surging in his eyes. He raised his hand and slapped it, and a golden light swept out. Return formula. Returning the favor to oneself. The golden light surged out, and the blood-devouring bee was immediately sent flying. Its huge body directly exploded in the void, and blood splattered across the sky. Sensing the familiar aura behind them, Fatso and the others opened their eyes, and a trace of surprise crept up in their eyes. But just as they were about to turn their heads to look, Qin Feiyang flashed and appeared in front of them. Qin Feiyang. Looking at the extremely familiar back, the 3 humans and 1 beast were wild with joy. Sorry, I only just arrived. Qin Feiyang smiled without turning his head and slapped the air again. The golden light burst out, and the blood-devouring bee in front of him also died on the spot. Your cultivation. Lu Zheng sized up Qin Feiyang in surprise. I just broke through. Qin Feiyang chuckled and raised his head to look at the blood dragon and the dozen or so blood-devouring bees opposite it. The dozen or so blood-devouring bees were also sizing up Qin Feiyang with a trace of surprise in their eyes. A 5-star combat emperor human could actually kill a 9-star the archbeast in an instant? Come and try my fire phoenix formula. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. His flaming battle aura rushed into the sky, and a huge fire phoenix appeared. Its mighty divine power shook the clouds. This was the 4th style of the fire phoenix formula, rising from the ashes. Bastard! Lu Zheng cursed in his heart. Chirp! The fire phoenix spread its wings and carried a sea of fire with it as it pounced toward the blood dragon. With Qin Feiyang's addition, the 2 fire phoenixes joined forces and instantly turned the battle into a one-sided one. Boom! In less than 3 breaths, the blood dragon let out a cry and collapsed. Lu Zheng landed beside Qin Feiyang and said unhappily, "It wasn't easy to move Hong but you stole the limelight again. You should thank me. If I hadn't purposely hidden until now, you wouldn't even have a chance to date her." Qin Feiyang chuckled in his heart. What? You've been here for a long time? Lu Zheng was surprised. Yes. I didn't come out because I was fulfilling your wish, Qin Feiyang thought in his heart. I see. You're indeed blood brothers. Thank you. Lu Zheng laughed in his heart. No, no, no. You're mistaken. We're not blood brothers. We're cousins. There's still some distance between cousins and blood brothers. Qin Feiyang said. You're really arrogant. It's just a polite remark. Don't take it seriously. Lu Zheng glanced at him disdainfully, then looked up at the dozen or so blood-devouring bees and said in his heart, Let's not talk nonsense and get rid of them together. Qin Feiyang nodded. Boom. The 2 of them waved their hands, and the 2 fire phoenixes circling in the sky immediately charged toward the dozen or so blood-devouring bees. Go! One of the blood-devouring bees shouted. The dozen or so blood-devouring bees immediately turned around and fled. Weren't you very arrogant just now? Why are you running now? Lu Zhang laughed, his eyes full of contempt, but his heart was full of joy. After being chased for so long, he had a belly full of resentment. Now that the reinforcements had finally arrived, he naturally couldn't just let it go. The two fire phoenixes chased closely. In the end, with a series of miserable howls, the dozen or so blood-devouring bees died one after another under the sharp claws of the fire phoenixes. Chapter 1481. But because of the death of these dozens of blood-devouring bees, the other blood-devouring bees were completely enraged. You cruel humans deserve to die 10,000 deaths. Brothers, kill. Don't let any of them go. The blood-devouring bees roared one after another. Like a bloody wave, they pounced toward Qin Feiyang and the others. You guys go to the castle first. Qin Feiyang turned his head and said to Fatso, Lu Hong, and the Phantom Snake Emperor. Then, he sent them directly to the castle. Lu Zhang hurriedly said, I also want to go and rest. In your dreams. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him. The word kill appeared between his eyebrows. His eyes and long hair instantly turned blood red, and his killing intent enveloped all directions. All the blood-devouring bees that were enveloped by the killing intent instinctively felt despair. But they didn't stop because of this. On the contrary, they became even crazier. Qin Feiyang looked around. The blood on the ground and the blood in the corpses continuously flowed toward the word kill. Boom. His cultivation base rapidly soared. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang retracted his gaze and looked at Lu Zhang. He asked, Why are you with Gongsun Bei? We met here. Speaking of which, we have to thank him. If he didn't bring people to hold back the blood-devouring bees of the 8- and 9-star combat emperors, we would have died a long time ago, right? There are 2 bee emperors here, 1 male and 1 female. They have the strength of a peak 9-star combat emperor. Lu Zhang said in a deep voice, 2 bee emperors. Qin Feiyang murmured, other than Gongsun Bei, who are the others? They seem to be the oracles of the main tower. Lu Zhang said, Let's go and take a look. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and brought Lu Zhang to the battlefield where Gongsun Bei was. He had always had a good impression of Gongsun Bei. He even wanted to take him under his command. Unfortunately, Gongsun Bei was too loyal to the main tower master. To be exact, he wasn't loyal to the main tower master. He was loyal to the main tower and the Forgotten Continent like Elder Qin. Boom. With a large amount of blood, Qin Feiyang's cultivation base quickly reached 8-star combat emperor. The 50 sword shadows of the Guiyuan sword technique swept out in all directions, sweeping everything in their path. Wherever they went, the blood-devouring bees would die under the sword. There was no need for Lu Zhang to do anything. This kill character formula is really powerful. Lu Zhang watched with trepidation. He consumed a healing pill and looked at Qin Feiyang with shifty eyes. He smiled and said, Little cousin, can you teach this kill formula to others? Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him. Lu Zhang immediately turned hostile and said angrily, I was just asking. How is it scolding people? Do you have any manners? Wolf and wolf hell, by. Qin Feiyang said. Lu Zhang was stunned. He was furious. How could he not think of such a simple logic? He was smart all his life, but stupid this time. You, on the other hand, what have you experienced in the past few days? Why do I feel that Lu Hong's opinion of you has changed? Qin Feiyang asked secretly as he killed the enemies. It's a long story. Ever since we entered this damned place, we've been running for our lives. But you're right. Hong is no longer as cold as before. Maybe it's because she saw my concern and sincerity for her along the way. Lu Zhang was secretly delighted. Qin Feiyang glanced at him and said, Are you serious? Lu Zhang immediately frowned and said, Nonsense. Am I the kind of person who treats relationships as child's play? That's good. I don't mean anything by asking this. After all, Lu Hong has been with me for so many years. I also want her to have a good home. And we're different from you. You grew up with a silver spoon in your mouth. There were no disasters or difficulties. But we've been through hardships since we were young. It's not easy to get to where we are now. Qin Feiyang said. Lu Jing frowned and said, "Why does it sound like you're mocking me?" "I'm telling the truth. Take Lu Hong, for example. When she was in Black Bear City, she had to bow to reality and live a humble life in order to survive. If Fatso hadn't dragged her into the water back then, who knows how far she would have fallen today. So I hope that she can continue to live a stable and happy life like this," Qin Feiyang said. "Dragged into the water?" Lu Zheng was stunned and asked curiously, "What do you mean?" "It's been too long. I don't remember clearly. I only vaguely remember that my situation in Black Bear City was very bad. It was Fatso who dragged Lu Hong onto my pirate ship. There's one thing I still remember. Lu Hong has always been brooding about this matter. She said that Fatso is not kind." Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. "This damn Fatso is indeed not kind. But it's all thanks to this damn Fatso. Otherwise, as you said, Hong Er's fate would not be like today. Don't worry. I promise to treat her well and will never let her suffer. Also, if this really happens, you'll be our matchmaker. At that time, I'll give you a big pig's head." Lu Zheng chuckled. "You're the pig's head." Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes, but he was very gratified. He believed that this would be the best ending for Lu Hong. Boom. During the conversation, Qin Feiyang's cultivation had already superimposed to a 9-star combat emperor. The blood-devouring bees naturally could not stop him. Boom. But suddenly, an exceptionally deafening sound exploded on the battlefield in front. Not long after, a wave of qi that seemed to be able to destroy the world came crashing down like a raging wave in a vast ocean, toppling mountains and overturning seas. "This is the aura of self-destruction." Lu Zheng was stunned. He turned to look at Qin Feiyang and said, "It can't be Gongsun Bei, right?" Qin Feiyang's heart sank. He knew Gongsun Bei's character. He would rather sacrifice himself than let others self-destruct. Maybe it really was him. "Please don't let it be you." Qin Feiyang murmured and used the phantom steps. His blood-red hair fluttered. He was like a god of death descending to the world as he charged over with Lu Zheng. The parched earth was shattered into pieces. A tragic aura filled the void. The blood-devouring bees were in a boundless swarm. It was impossible to count them. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang saw more than a dozen figures on the ground in front of him. The leader was Gongsun Bei. There were men and women, old and young, but without exception, they were all missing arms and legs. They were dripping with blood and looked extremely miserable. A group of people was charging towards them. No, to be exact, they were running towards them. "He's not dead." Qin Feiyang became spirited and quickly rushed over to help. If it was really Gongsun Bei who had self-destructed, he would have regrets in his heart. Damn it. He actually forced old Feng to self-destruct. If I knew that the divine ruin was so dangerous, I wouldn't have come. At the same time, the people behind Gongsun Bei were roaring with regret. Their faces were filled with helplessness. They thought that the divine ruin was heaven, but it was hell. No, it was scarier than hell. Calm down. What's the use of regretting now? Old Feng self-destructed to open a way for us to survive. We can't let him die in vain, Gongsun Bei shouted. Everyone became silent. Bastards, I'll kill you all. A white-clothed woman suddenly roared and charged towards the swarm of bees. She waved her hand and killed a large number of them. At the same time, 2 8-star combat emperor blood-devouring bees stabbed their stingers into the white-clothed woman's heart. The white-clothed woman immediately cried out in pain. Gongsun Bei's face darkened. He went forward and smashed the 2 blood-devouring bees to save the white-clothed woman. "Why are you so impulsive?" Gongsun Bei's face was filled with anger. He pulled out the 2 poisonous stingers and took out an antidote pill, stuffing it into the woman's mouth. "I really don't want to run anymore. I want to die together with them like old Feng," the white-clothed woman roared. Obviously, her mind had collapsed. Suddenly, a white-haired old man accidentally discovered Qin Feiyang and Lu Zheng. His eyes widened and were filled with disbelief. After regaining his senses, he immediately shouted, "Look, are my eyes playing tricks on me? I actually saw Qin Feiyang." "What? Qin Feiyang?" Everyone's eyes trembled. Gongsun Bei also immediately turned his head. When he saw Qin Feiyang and Lu Zheng, his face was filled with ecstasy. He said, "It's really him. We're saved. Let's go." Hearing Gongsun Bei's words, the group of people seemed to have been injected with chicken blood. They forcibly opened up a bloody path and rushed to meet up with Qin Feiyang. After a while, the two groups finally met. Qin Feiyang ran to Gongsun Bei and asked with concern, "Are you okay?" Gongsun Bei said, "I can still hold on. Take this first." Qin Feiyang took out a healing pill with 6 veins and gave it to Gongsun Bei. Then, he looked at the divine envoys behind Gongsun Bei. Including Gongsun Bei, there were a total of 15 people. 2 of them were at the peak of the 9-star combat emperor realm. The rest were 9-star combat emperors. Qin Feiyang said suspiciously, "I sensed 3 peak realm auras earlier. Why are there only 2 now?" "The one missing is Old Feng. He self-destructed his physical body so that we could escape from the encirclement of the 2 wasp emperors." Gongsun Bei said dejectedly, "What a pity." Qin Feiyang sighed. The birth of a peak 9-star combat emperor not only required a long time, but also a large amount of resources. The old man in white said anxiously, "Don't say so much. The wasp emperors have probably caught up. If we don't leave now, it will be too late." Qin Feiyang nodded and looked at Gongsun Bei. "You take them and leave first. Lu Zheng and I will bring up the rear." "Okay." Gongsun Bei nodded and immediately led a group of people forward. However, after a few steps, the ground in front of them cracked and a giant blood-devouring wasp swept out from the ground. Its body was more than 100 feet long, like a house. Its body was dripping with blood and emitted a monstrous aura. His cultivation had reached the peak of the 9-star combat emperor realm. Wasp Emperor. Gongsun Bei and the group immediately braked and retreated to Qin Feiyang's side. They stared at the Wasp Emperor with fear in their eyes. Behind the Wasp Emperor, there was a group of blood-devouring wasps. Chapter 1482. What should we do? The divine envoys panicked. Now, they were all seriously injured and had no strength to fight. Although there were more Qin Feiyang and Lu Zheng, they did not think that the 2 of them could handle so many 9-star combat emperors' blood-devouring bees. Not to mention the bee empress. "You are all divine envoys of the main pagoda. What have you not seen? Why are you so useless now? Can panicking solve the problem? Everyone, calm down," Gongsun Bei shouted. "Palace Master, you can't blame them. Since entering the divine site, everyone has been fighting. They are all exhausted. Yes, we don't even have time to rest. Fortunately, everyone's mental fortitude is good enough. Otherwise, they would have collapsed." The 2 peak combat emperors looked at Gongsun Bei and sighed. Gongsun Bei frowned and turned to look at Qin Feiyang, wanting to say something. Boom! Suddenly, the ground in front of them cracked, and another giant blood-devouring bee appeared with a group of blood-devouring bees. What? The 2 bee empresses are not dead. Isn't Old Feng's self-destruction meaningless? Damn it! The 2 peak combat emperors roared in grief. Gongsun Bei was also filled with grief and anger. He thought that the self-destruction could at least kill 1 bee empress, but in the end, the 2 bee empresses were only injured. On the surface, the injuries were not serious. The 2 bee empresses led their people and blocked everyone's path. Their eyes flashed fiercely. There are so many of them? Lu Zheng was surprised. At a glance, there were at least thousands of 9-star combat emperors' blood-devouring bees. There were more of them than now. Although Old Feng's self-destruction did not kill the bee empresses, it killed many 9-star combat emperors' blood-devouring bees. Gongsun Bei said in a low voice. How many were there? Lu Zheng asked. Gongsun Bei said, there were at least 2,000 or 3,000 9-star combat emperors' blood-devouring bees. TSK, TSK, TSK. Lu Zheng was speechless. Facing so many terrifying blood-devouring bees, it was a miracle that Gongsun Bei and the others could hold on until now. Actually, we had more than 30 divine envoys. Gongsun Bei sighed. It went without saying that those missing people had all died in battle. There are 2 more humans. But it doesn't matter. Kill. The two bee emperors looked at Qin Feiyang and Lu Zheng with disdain. With a loud roar, the 9-star combat emperor's blood-devouring bees swarmed towards Qin Feiyang and the others. "You're courting death." Lu Zheng's gaze turned cold. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. "You don't need to do anything. Just protect Gongsun Bei and the others." "Whatever." Lu Zheng shrugged. Boom. Qin Feiyang's body shook, and an invisible force rolled out. The 4 moves of the ruins of End attacked. His divine might shook the entire area. Ah! The blood-devouring bees fell one after another, their blood splashing across the sky. With Qin Feiyang as the center, the area within a radius of half a mile was like an uncrossable lightning pool. Not a single blood-devouring bee could approach. Those that came close would immediately explode and die. This technique, the group of divine envoys was stunned. Boom. Soon after, with the kill art, Qin Feiyang's cultivation level broke through again and stepped into the peak 9-star combat emperor realm. What? This time, even the 2 bee emperors were stunned. He broke through it this time? Lu Zheng, protect them. Qin Feiyang shouted coldly and took the initiative to attack. He used the phantom steps and pounced on the bee emperor in front of him. "Do you think you can compete with me just because you have broken through to the peak realm?" Naive. The wasp emperor smiled disdainfully as a blood-colored wave surged out and rushed towards Qin Feiyang from all directions. "You're the naive one. Let alone the peak realm. Even an ordinary 9-star combat emperor can easily kill you." Qin Feiyang sneered. With a wave of his hand, the 3 divine skills, Eclipse and Moon, appeared. With a destructive aura, they crushed the blood-red wave and drowned the bee emperor. The bee emperor's expression changed, and it quickly summoned its battle soul. However, it was useless. The battle soul was destroyed. Immediately after, with a scream, the bee emperor's body suddenly exploded and flesh and blood splattered everywhere. "Bastard! I'm going to tear you apart." The other bee emperor was filled with grief and anger. It activated its battle soul and pounced on Qin Feiyang like a madman. "Ant!" Qin Feiyang snorted coldly. The divine dragon seal appeared, and the dragon's aura rolled out in all directions. With a loud bang, the bee emperor died on the spot. Not even its bones were left behind. This, Gongsun Bei and the others were dumbfounded. The 2 wasp emperors that gave them a headache and almost took their lives were easily killed by Qin Feiyang just like that? This must be a joke. This strength of his was too terrifying. Master Bee Emperor. The death of the 2 bee emperors caused the other blood-devouring bees to fall into endless grief and anger. "You damned humans! You should be hacked into pieces. My people, kill them and avenge the 2 masters. Kill!" The place was suddenly filled with the sound of killing. In an instant, the endless blood-devouring bees turned into a blood-red wave and pounced on Qin Feiyang and the others from all directions. The eyes of each blood-devouring bee were filled with hatred and resentment. Boom. There were even a few 9-star combat emperor blood-devouring bees that pounced on Qin Feiyang and exploded their bodies. The destructive aura was overwhelming. Qin Feiyang decisively activated the battle character secret art and the armor. This double defense could actually block the destructive power of the self-explosion. He was overjoyed. In the future, when he fought with others, he would no longer be afraid of his opponents suddenly exploding, and he would not need to hide in the ancient castle. "Little cousin, don't just worry about yourself." At this moment, Lu Zheng's anxious voice sounded. Qin Feiyang quivered and hurriedly turned his head to look. He saw that Lu Zheng and the others were covered in wounds under the destructive power of the self-explosion, especially Gongsun Bei and the group of divine envoys. Blood spurted out from all over their bodies, and their bodies were cracking. Qin Feiyang's expression changed. He quickly rushed over and waved his hand to send everyone to the ancient castle. Even the self-explosion couldn't hurt him? How can this human be so terrifying? The surrounding blood-devouring bees were all stunned when they saw Qin Feiyang alive and kicking. "I don't believe it. Go to hell with me." A 9-star battle monarch blood-devouring bee let out a furious roar and charged toward Qin Feiyang. Its dustpan-sized body suddenly exploded, but in the end, Not only was Qin Feiyang unharmed, but its companions were also killed. This is too terrifying. Even the self-explosion couldn't hurt him. Is he a human or a monster? The swarm of bees panicked. Have you guys had enough fun? It's my turn now. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. Like a killing god, he swept into the swarm of bees and killed in all directions. The two bee emperors had fallen. Now, he didn't need to use the divine art anymore. The 50 sword shadows of the Guiyuan sword art were extremely sharp and invincible. Every time he attacked, a large group of blood-devouring bees would be destroyed. In less than 100 breaths, thousands of 9-star combat emperor blood-devouring bees were killed. Stop killing. We won't fight anymore. I beg you, please have mercy on me. The blood-devouring bees were scared out of their wits. One after another, they crawled on the ground and begged. Qin Feiyang lowered his arm and scanned the surrounding bees. The killing intent in his eyes had not disappeared. We were wrong. We shouldn't have provoked you. Please be merciful and give us a way out. The group of blood-devouring bees at the front looked at Qin Feiyang pitifully. They were all 8-star combat emperors. The 2 bee emperors and the 9-star combat emperor's blood-devouring bees had been killed. They were now the leaders of the blood-devouring bees. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. Suddenly, he deactivated the kill formula and his cultivation quickly dropped to 5-star combat emperor. What's the situation? The blood-devouring bees were surprised. Why would his cultivation suddenly plummet without rhyme or reason? Was he injured? Was he just holding on? An 8-star combat emperor blood-devouring bee roared, "Brothers, he's not as scary as we thought. Let's kill him together." Kill. The swarm of bees once again pounced on Qin Feiyang. Sigh. Qin Feiyang let out a long sigh and shook his head. I've already given you a chance. What do you mean? The blood-devouring bees were surprised. I deactivated the kill formula in order to test you. If you don't have any evil intentions, I'll definitely give you a way out. Unfortunately, your current performance has greatly disappointed me. In that case, don't blame me for being merciless. As soon as he finished speaking, Qin Feiyang's eyes were filled with murderous intent. A purple gold divine dragon appeared in the sky and let out a long roar. Divine dragon's roar. Waves of invisible sound waves rolled out in all directions like waves. Are all of you thinking right now that I've lowered my cultivation just to test you? Isn't that too stupid? Wrong. I'm not stupid. I'm confident. Even if I'm only a 5-star combat emperor, it's enough to massacre your entire tribe. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. The sound waves roared in the sky. The 8-star combat emperor blood-devouring bees that were charging at the front were accompanied by painful screams as their bodies exploded one after another. Their blood dyed the mountains and rivers red. A 5-star combat emperor's cultivation is so powerful? The swarm of bees was shocked. They quickly prostrated themselves on the ground and begged for mercy in despair. You only have one chance. Qin Feiyang's eyes were extremely cold. The sound waves continued to rush out, crushing the ground. In just 2 to 3 breaths' time, tens of thousands of blood-devouring bees died on the spot. He's a demon. Run! A 7-star combat emperor blood-devouring bee roared. The swarm of bees immediately scattered and began to flee in panic. Kill. At this moment, Ling Yunfei and the others rushed over with murderous intent, leaving behind a sea of corpses wherever they went. Why are you here?
Qin Feiyang asked with a smile.
You left for a long time and didn't return. Of course, we were afraid that something would happen to you, so we came to take a look. I didn't expect the blood-devouring bees to be gathered here. What exactly happened here? The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix House asked. Qin Feiyang smiled and looked at Ling Yunfei and Luo Qingzhu. He said, I found Fatso and Gongsun Bei here. Fatso. When the two heard this, a trace of joy crept up their faces. What about little Hongzi, little Zhengzi, and little Worm? White-Eyed Wolf asked. They're here too. Chapter 1483. Brother Wolf, why didn't you come earlier? I almost died in the hands of these beasts. fatty immediately rushed in front of the ingrate, as if he was a little wife who had been wronged, with an aggrieved expression. Get lost. What's the big deal? Why are you so wronged? The white-eyed wolf pushed Fatso away, his eyes full of disdain. Fatso looked at the white-eyed wolf in a daze. Why are you looking at me? The white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows. Fatso sighed deeply and said sadly, You've changed. It seems that you've met a new lover and forgotten me, your old love. Bastard, are you deliberately disgusting me? The white-eyed wolf was furious. Ha ha. Ling Yunfei laughed and said, Damn Fatso, I haven't seen you for so many years, but you're still so funny. Luo Qingzhu couldn't help but cover her mouth and laugh. Who is it? How dare you call me damn Fatso? Are you looking for death? Fatso immediately frowned and turned to look at Ling Yunfei. At that moment, his eyes widened and he exclaimed, How is this possible? What's going on? Lu Hong, Lu Zheng, and the Phantom Snake Emperor also looked at Ling Yunfei. Lu Hong was also stunned. As for Lu Zheng and the Phantom Snake Emperor, they had never seen Ling Yunfei before, so they naturally didn't know what was going on. Is there an illusion? It seems that Fat Lord's injuries are really serious this time. Fatso came back to his senses, shook his head, and looked at Ling Yunfei again. Why didn't you change? His expression froze again. Was it an illusion? What the hell was that? He shivered and hid behind Qin Feiyang. He stared at Ling Yunfei and shouted, Are you a human or a ghost? When he was alive, Fat Lord had never done anything wrong to you. Don't bother me. Ling Yunfei's face darkened. Luo Qingzhu pursed her lips and smiled. Fatso, take a good look. Fatso then looked at Luo Qingzhu, his eyes almost popping out of their sockets. Are you kidding me? They even came in pairs to find us? Brothers, sisters, hurry up and leave. I'm timid. I can't stand the torment. At most, I'll burn more paper money and ingots for you during festivals in the future to show my filial piety. Fatso looked at the two of them with a long face and begged again and again. A row of black lines appeared on Luo Qingzhu's forehead. This bastard Fatso, why couldn't he say something reasonable? Was he cursing them? Whoosh! Luo Qingzhu took a step forward and slapped Fatso's face. She shouted, Take a good look. Are we humans or ghosts? Ouch, ouch, ouch. Fatso howled. Wait a minute. Would it hurt? There was still warmth in his hand. There was still a fragrance on his body. So, they were not ghosts? You. He looked up at the two of them, his eyes full of disbelief. We're not dead. Ling Yunfei laughed. Not dead. Fatso was stunned. He looked at Luo Qingzhu closely and suddenly opened his arms and hugged Luo Qingzhu. Not dead? You're really not dead. What have you been doing all these years? Since you're still alive, why didn't you come back earlier? Do you know how many tears I've shed for you all these years? How many times did I feel sad for you? Fatso was so excited that he was almost incoherent. Go away, go away. Your snot is all over me. Luo Qingzhu pushed Fatso with all her strength, her face full of disgust. No, compared to my concern for you, this snot is nothing. Bear with it. Fatso snorted coldly. Luo Qingzhu smiled helplessly. Ling Yunfei was also speechless to the extreme. However, the two of them felt warm in their hearts. No matter how unreliable Fatso was, they knew that these words came from the bottom of Fatso's heart. His concern for them and his affection for them could not be erased. Ling Yunfei walked to Lu Hong, opened his arms, and said with a smile, Long time no see, long time no see. Lu Hong nodded with a smile and stepped forward to give Ling Yunfei a hug. Wait. Seeing this, Lu Zheng immediately pulled the two of them apart and glared at Ling Yunfei. Who the hell are you? How dare you take advantage of Hong in front of me? Ling Yunfei was stunned, looked at Lu Zheng and said, I know who you are, the genius of the Lu family, Boss Qin's cousin Lu Zheng. But what does my hug with Lu Hong have to do with you? Of course it's my business. Hong is my fiancé, Lu Zheng said confidently. Fiancé? Ling Yunfei was stunned. Luo Qingzhu was stunned. Everyone present was looking at Lu Zheng in shock at this moment. Lu Hong was also stunned. She never thought that such a sentence would come out of Lu Zheng's mouth. Lu Zheng said proudly, "You hug my fiancé in front of me, and you dare to say it's none of my business? Who is your fiancé? Are you having a fever?" Lu Hong came to her senses and immediately glared at Lu Zheng. Lu Zheng grabbed Lu Hong's hand and said aggrievedly, "Hong, so many people are watching, can't you leave me some face?" "Let go." Lu Hong was angry and ashamed. "No, if I let go, what if you run away?" Lu Zheng shook his head. "So it's like this." Ling Yunfei looked at the two of them and finally understood. He reached out to pat Lu Zheng on the shoulder and said with a sneaky smile, "Cousin, I'm sorry, I was wrong just now. You're quite sensible, boy. I like it." Lu Zheng also laughed sneakily. "Cousin, as long as you don't hold a grudge against me. Let me add one last thing, you have a good eye." Ling Yunfei chuckled. "Of course." Lu Zheng held his head high and chest out, extremely proud of himself. "What are you two whispering about?" Lu Hong looked at the two of them with a frown. "Nothing, nothing." The two of them waved their hands. "I don't believe you." Lu Hong snorted and glanced at Lu Zheng, saying, "I told you to let go. Didn't you hear me?" "No. Unless you promise me that you won't leave me for the rest of your life," Lu Zheng said with a stubborn face. Lu Hong looked at the sky and was speechless. She looked at Qin Feiyong and the others for help. Everyone pretended not to see. Qin Feiyong coughed, glanced at Lu Hong, and said to Lu Jing via voice transmission, "Haste makes waste." She hasn't pushed you away now, which means that she has subconsciously accepted you. Take it slow. That makes sense. Lu Zheng thought about it and secretly chuckled. He let go of Lu Hong, then smiled ambiguously at Lu Hong, walked to Qin Feiyong, looked at Ling Yunfei and Luo Qingzhu, and said with a smile, "Little cousin, won't you introduce us?" Qin Feiyong said, "His name is Ling Yunfei, and her name is Luo Qingzhu. They are friends I made in the county of Yin." "So it's you. I've heard of your names before, but I've never seen you in person. I'm lucky to meet you today." "Nice to meet you." Lu Zheng cupped his hands and smiled. Luo Qingzhu said with a smile, "You're too kind, young Master Lu. Your name is really well known, especially your elder brother, Lu Jiajin." "Ah, you even know my big brother? It seems that there's an expert behind the two of you." Lu Zheng looked at the two of them meaningfully. Luo Qingzhu said, "You're thinking too much, young Master Lu. We just happened to hear about it." "Haha." Lu Zheng laughed and did not ask any more questions. He ran to Lu Hong's side and fawned over her. Ling Yunfei glanced at Lu Zheng and said via voice transmission, "Boss, your cousin may look frivolous on the surface, but he's actually a very shrewd person." Qin Feiyong smiled faintly and said, "If he didn't have a brain, second grandpa wouldn't have let him follow me." "Then what's second grandpa's purpose in letting him follow you?" Ling Yunfei asked secretly. Qin Feiyong said, "Probably to protect me." "Then it seems that the Lu family is quite good to you." Ling Yunfei said secretly. Qin Feiyong nodded and asked, "How much beehive did you get?" "A lot. At least enough for us to squander for a few years. And there's still a lot that we haven't had time to collect." Ling Yunfei smiled. "Beehive?" The group of oracles looked at each other, their eyes full of surprise. Gongsun Bei looked at Qin Feiyong and asked curiously, "The beehive you're talking about, is it the beehive of the blood-devouring bees?" Qin Feiyong nodded. Gongsun Bei said, "I heard that the beehive of the blood-devouring bees is a great treasure. I've tasted it. The rumors are true. A drop of beehive is comparable to 1,000 battle chi pills and healing pills." Qin Feiyong smiled and looked at Ling Yunfei. "Take out 15 drops of beehive and let them have a taste. At the same time, help them heal their injuries." "Okay." Ling Yunfei nodded. A light flashed in front of him and 15 drops of beehive appeared. "Thank you." Gongsun Bei cupped his hands and thanked him. He waved his hand and 15 drops of beehive flew in front of him. He looked at the group of oracles and smiled. "Come on, 1 drop each." The group of oracles glanced at Qin Feiyong and immediately stepped forward, each taking a drop. Immediately, a surge of majestic energy spread through their bodies. The fatigue from before was instantly swept away, and they were hale and hearty. The bleeding wounds and broken limbs were also healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. And the most obvious was the battle chi. In less than 10 breaths, the lost battle chi was replenished. This is really a miracle pill, the group of oracles exclaimed. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and raised his head to look in other directions. The swarm of bees had fled far away, but he could still vaguely see some traces of blood-devouring bees. Li Jian asked, "Young master, why don't we chase after them? Anyway, the slightly stronger blood-devouring bees are already dead. There's no need to kill them all. Besides, if we kill them all, we won't be able to get such valuable beehive in the future." Qin Feiyang smiled. That makes sense. Li Jian nodded. But, Qin Feiyang said again, his eyes flickering. But what? Everyone looked at him suspiciously. Qin Feiyang turned his head to look at Ling Yunfei and smiled. Subdue them and let them enter your space divine item. This way, we will have endless battle chi pills. Good idea. Ling Yunfei nodded. Fatso and the others also agreed. Endless battle chi pills. The group of oracles standing behind Gongsun Bei heard this, and a glint flashed in their eyes. The next moment, the two old men at the peak of the 9-star combat emperor realm looked at each other and rushed out, landing behind Lu Hong. One of the old men immediately slapped Lu Zheng's back. Puff. Lu Zheng suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and flew out like a meteorite. Chapter 1484. Qin Feiyang and the others were startled. They quickly looked over and paled. Even Gongsun Bei was caught off guard. After coming back to his senses, Qin Feiyang immediately stepped forward and caught Lu Zheng, asking, "Are you all right?" Lu Zheng ignored his own injuries and immediately looked at the two old men. He shouted, "What are you doing? Let go of Hong or—" One of the old men smiled. "The more you show concern, the more valuable this woman is." Humph. Qin Feiyang coldly snorted. "Don't move. Otherwise, don't blame this old man for being ruthless." The old man holding Lu Hong stared at Qin Feiyang warily and smiled coldly. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly. "Don't forget that I saved you just now."
Yes.
"You saved us. But so what? You can only blame yourself for being too stupid."
The two sneered.
Impudent. Gongsun Bei suddenly became furious. He glared at the two and shouted, "Is this how you repay kindness with enmity as the divine envoys of the main tower? I order you to release her immediately." "Temple Master, you're stupid. Don't you know what kind of person Qin Feiyang is? Even if he saved us now, he'll find an excuse to kill us sooner or later. Maybe he saved us for an ulterior motive," the two said. "I know what kind of person Qin Feiyang is better than any of you. Release Lu Hong immediately. I'll plead with Qin Feiyang for you." "I believe he'll let you go for my sake," Gongsun Bei said. "Let you go? Not now." The two old men chuckled and turned to look at the other 12 divine envoys. "What are you still standing there for? Come here. How dare you?" Gongsun Bei roared. The 12 oracles looked at the two old men and then at Gongsun Bei. It was hard for them to make a choice. "Temple Master, this old man knows that you are a righteous person, but don't forget what the Chief Tower Master told us before we left." "That's right. The Chief Tower Master has ordered us to eliminate Qin Feiyang and his henchmen as soon as we have the chance. And now is a good opportunity. This woman is in our hands. No matter how capable Qin Feiyang is, he can only hold back from shooting at the rat for fear of breaking the vases. So, Palace Master, please don't let your emotions affect your decisions," the two old men said. Hearing those words, the 12 divine envoys decisively stood together with the two old men. Simultaneously, the eyes of Qin Feiyang, Fatso, and the others were also filled with coldness and killing intent. Who would have thought that the Chief Pagoda Master would give such an order? Getting rid of them as soon as they had the chance. How vicious. "Boss, let's do it." With Lu Hong's current strength, even if that old bastard attacked, she would at most be seriously injured. She won't lose her life. Fatso messaged. "Don't be in such a hurry." Qin Feiyang waved his hand and looked at Gongsun Bei. He wanted to see what Gongsun Bei would do. Gongsun Bei lowered his head, seemingly struggling in his heart. A moment later, he raised his head and looked at Qin Feiyang. Then, he looked at the two old men and shook his head. I don't dare to forget Chief Tower Master's orders, but I, Gongsun Bei, can't do such a thing. Qin Feiyang smiled. He had not misjudged Gongsun Bei. But the two old men became angry and shouted, Are you going to disobey the Chief Tower Master's order? I don't dare. I will carry out the Chief Tower Master's order, but not now. Now, as the Temple Master of the Oracle Hall, I order you to release her immediately. Gongsun Bei shouted. Carry it out? If you lose this opportunity, do you think you can kill Qin Feiyang with your strength? Temple Master, the winner is the king. The loser is the bandit. As long as we win, who cares what methods we use? Let's talk about it later. As long as we kill him, everything he has, including the castle, Changshui, and the beehive they collected before, will be ours. This is a win-win deal. The two old men tried to persuade him. I care. Although others won't say it, my conscience will be uneasy, and it will be uneasy for the rest of my life. I'll say it one last time. Release her. Gongsun Bei shouted. The two old men looked at each other and shook their heads at Gongsun Bei. Temple Master, you have really disappointed us. A kind person like you is not suitable to be the Temple Master of the Oracle Hall. What do you want to do? Gongsun Bei raised his eyebrows, feeling uneasy. Today, Qin Feiyang must die. Since you can't do it, then step aside and watch. If you dare to interfere, humph, then don't blame us for being disrespectful and killing you too. The two old men snorted coldly, not hiding the killing intent in their eyes. Gongsun Bei was furious. In fact, he was saving everyone. Because in the main tower, no one knew Qin Feiyang better than him. Qin Feiyang cared about his companions the most. Attacking his companions was tantamount to touching his reverse scale, and there would not be a good ending. But he also understood. These people had already made up their minds and would not listen at all. So the anger in his heart could only turn into a long sigh. Then, he slowly walked to the two old men and turned to look at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang said, Is this your choice? I have no choice. Between you and the main tower, I have to make a choice. I don't ask for your forgiveness. I just hope you can understand. Gongsun Bei sighed. Understand? Qin Feiyang murmured and looked at Gongsun Bei with a smile. Then I want to ask, I have done so many things over the years, why can't anyone understand me? Gongsun Bei was silent. Qin Feiyang shook his head and murmured, Wrong is wrong. Right is right. Since you have made a choice, you have to pay the price. I am willing to pay the price, Gongsun Bei said. Seeing Gongsun Bei express his position, the two old men laughed. One of them sneered, Qin Feiyang, your road has come to an end. Immediately tell your people to cripple their own cultivation, including yourself. Sigh. Why are there always so many people in this world who think they are smart? Qin Feiyang sighed. You think too highly of them. This is not being smart, it is courting death. Fatso sneered. Cut the crap. Hurry up and do it. Otherwise, I will crush her throat. The old man holding Lu Hong shouted impatiently. Qin Feiyang narrowed his eyes, and murderous intent burst out of his eyes. But at this moment, Gongsun Bei suddenly turned around, grabbed Lu Hong's arm, and snatched her from the old man's hands. Temple Master, you. The old man's face was blank. The other old man and the other oracles were also caught off guard. Not to mention them. Even Qin Feiyang and the others did not expect this. Gongsun Bei waved his hand again and pushed Lu Hong in front of Qin Feiyang. Lu Jing immediately went forward and grabbed Lu Hong's hand, his face full of concern, and asked, Are you okay? I'm fine, but you should be quite injured after being hit by his palm. Hurry up and take this healing pill. Lu Hong took out a healing pill and handed it to Lu Zheng. Feed me. Lu Zheng opened his mouth. I really don't know what to do with you. Lu Hong glared at Lu Zheng and put the healing pill into Lu Zheng's mouth. Honger, you're so nice. Lu Zheng smiled foolishly, his face full of happiness. Lu Hong shook her head helplessly and turned to look at Gongsun Bei. Her eyes flashed. Temple Master, what are you doing? You ruined such a good opportunity just like that. The oracles all glared at Gongsun Bei. "Shut up, all of you. We are the oracles of the main tower. No matter what we do, we must be above board. I hope that in the future, you will not bring shame to the main tower." Gongsun Bei shouted coldly and looked at Qin Feiyang. "I have returned Lu Hong to you, and I also solemnly apologize to you on their behalf. I hope you can let them go. You had a chance to kill him, but you didn't want it. Now you are begging for mercy. You are asking for humiliation. You have failed the main tower lord's high hopes and betrayed his will. You are not qualified to be our temple master." The two old men's eyes instantly turned red. Whoosh! The two of them attacked at the same time and destroyed Gongsun Bei's sea of qi with lightning speed. "You!" Gongsun Bei looked at them in disbelief. Qin Feiyang and the others were also dumbfounded. They never thought that these people would attack Gongsun Bei. One of the old men snorted and grabbed Gongsun Bei by the throat. He stared at Qin Feiyang and said, "Although we don't know what happened between you and Gongsun Bei, we can see that you care about each other very much." Qin Feiyang frowned. The old man smiled sinisterly. "If you want him to live, destroy your own cultivation immediately. Don't test this old man's patience. I admit that I admire him, but if you use him to threaten me, then I can only apologize to you." Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, the Scorpion Emperor, the four beasts, and Li Jian immediately rushed out like hungry wolves, pouncing on the group of people. "You really don't care?" The old man looked a little flustered. "Up to you," Qin Feiyang said lightly. "I miscalculated. Damn it." The old man cursed. He grabbed Gongsun Bei and threw him toward the four beasts and Li Jian. Then he turned around and left without looking back. Seeing this, the other old man and the other oracles also turned around and ran for their lives. Li Jian waved his hand and caught Gongsun Bei. He turned his head and looked at Qin Feiyang with an inquiring gaze. "Keep chasing. I want him alive," Qin Feiyang said. "Understood." Li Jian nodded and put Gongsun Bei down. He waved his hand and led Zhou Zheng and the Scorpion King to chase after the group of people. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house looked at the disappointed Gongsun Bei and walked to Qin Feiyang's side. She whispered, "You really don't care about him?" "Of course I care. But if I didn't say so, would they let Gongsun Bei go so easily? Besides, this is a good opportunity for me." Chapter 1485. A good opportunity? Ling Yunfei was taken aback. He looked at Fatso and asked suspiciously, "What good opportunity?" "Boss has been eyeing Gongsun Bei for a long time and wants to recruit him. But Gongsun Bei is a bit stubborn, and this time, Gongsun Bei's heart was hurt by the betrayal of his subordinates. This is a rare opportunity for boss." Fatso explained. "I see." Ling Yunfei suddenly understood and looked curiously at Gongsun Bei. What was so special about this person that made Qin Feiyang so envious? He looked at Gongsun Bei again. He stood there with his head lowered, and his expression was suffused with a wisp of sorrow that couldn't be dispersed. "It's not worth it to be sad over such a villain. Here." Qin Feiyang walked over, took out a spirit sea pill, and handed it to Gongsun Bei. Gongsun Bei looked up at Qin Feiyang, took the spirit sea pill, thanked him, and put it in his mouth. Then, he let out a long sigh. "Actually, I don't need to tell you what the people in the main tower are like. To be honest, I really feel that it's not worth it for you. You need a better and bigger stage to show your talent," Qin Feiyang said. Although he didn't say it directly, the sincerity on his face said it all. Gongsun Bei wasn't stupid and naturally understood what Qin Feiyang meant. But he didn't say anything. "What are you hesitating for? Are people like them worth your protection? Take the main tower master, for example. He's a typical villain. Is it worth it for you to work for him?" Qin Feiyang said angrily, unable to hold back his anger. "To put it nicely, this is called loyalty. To put it bluntly, you're stubborn and blindly loyal." Fatso and the others also sighed. Not only Qin Feiyang, but he also felt that it was not worth it for Gongsun Bei. Such a good person was being controlled by a sinister villain. Where was the justice? A fine bird chooses a fine tree to nest in. Although Fei Yang's methods are somewhat extreme at times, overall, he's much better than the head pagoda master. I can guarantee that you won't regret following him. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion stepped forward and said. Gongsun Bei raised his head and looked at the young lady of Dragon Phoenix House, then at Fatso, and finally at Qin Feiyang. He sighed and said, "How can I not understand what you are talking about? However, everyone in this world has something that they must protect." Qin Feiyang frowned. Gongsun Bei looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Take you for example. If I asked you to leave the great Qin Empire with me, would you be willing? If that's the case, as long as it benefits the great Qin Empire, I will agree. Because I'm protecting Great Qin's territory and its people, not fighting for a single person." Qin Feiyang said, "You sure know how to think, but I can't do it because I'm a layman. So, I'm sorry, but thank you for your appreciation. We'll meet again if fate wills it." Gongsun Bei smiled, then turned and left silently. Why is my temper so stubborn? Fatso was furious and chased after Gongsun Bei. However, Qin Feiyang pulled him back and shook his head with a smile. "Don't chase. You can still smile?" Fatso frowned. "Why can't I smile? Didn't you see that he was hesitating at first? Hesitation means that he's starting to waver. I believe that one day he will come to my side." Qin Feiyang smiled. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something as he looked at Gongsun Bei's back and said, "Wait, what's the matter?" Gongsun Bei stopped and looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. "Wait a moment." Qin Feiyang entered the castle. "What's going on?" Everyone was at a loss. A moment later, Qin Feiyang appeared with a jade box in his hands and tossed it to Gongsun Bei with a smile. "Just a token of my appreciation. Take it." Gongsun Bei reached for the jade box and was dumbfounded when he opened it. He came back to his senses. He hurriedly looked at Qin Feiyang and shook his head. "I can't accept it without doing anything." Qin Feiyang had expected Gongsun Bei to reject and smiled. "If you treat me as a friend, take it." Gongsun Bei was stunned. He was also a straightforward person and did not continue to refuse. He carefully put away the jade box and said, "All right, I'll take it as owing you a favor. I'll definitely repay it in the future." "All right." Qin Feiyang nodded. "Goodbye." Gongsun Bei cupped his fists and smiled before turning and disappearing from the sight of Qin Feiyang and the others without looking back. Fatso asked curiously, "Boss, what did you give him?" Qin Feiyang said, "A pill to unlock the door of potential." "So, you were bribing him." Fatso nodded in realization. "It's just a few pills. It can't be considered a bribe. Furthermore, there's no great creation pill in the pills I gave him." Qin Feiyang said. "What? You still have a trick up your sleeve? That's not fair of you." Fatso said in disdain. "Not fair?" Qin Feiyang was stunned for a moment before he said angrily, "Can't you say something nicer? There's no great creation pill because I don't have any herbs on me. Do you understand?" Fatso was stunned and smiled awkwardly. Sorry. Fat Lord. I forgot that all the herbs are with Dan Wonkai now." Although they had obtained more than 290 fruits of creation in the water source, it was useless without other herbs. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and said, "So now, we have to find Dan Wonkai quickly. The herbs he has are comparable to a big treasure. We can't let anything happen to him." Everyone nodded in agreement. Boom. Crack. At this moment, loud sounds of collision came from afar. Following closely, an intense battle ripple spread out, covering the sky and covering the earth. Everyone looked up. Although they couldn't see, they knew that the Crocodile Emperor and the rest were fighting with the divine envoys of the main tower. Qin Feiyang wasn't worried at all. Whether it was Li Jian or the Crocodile Emperor and the other beasts, they were all at the peak of the 9-star combat emperor realm. As for the divine envoys of the main tower, although they had the advantage in numbers, they only had 2 9-star combat emperors. So, no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't escape from the Crocodile Emperor and the rest. Qin Feiyang closed his eyes and calmed down. Through the slave seal, he sensed the location of Dan Wonkai and the rest. Time passed by. A moment later, Qin Feiyang frowned and opened his eyes. What's wrong? Everyone looked at him in surprise. Did something happen to Dan Wonkai and the rest? I don't know if there was an accident, but Dan Wonkai, Viper, Black Dragon Snake, Winged Snow Eagle, Pangolin, and Fire Cheelin are in different directions. The distance is also very far. If we look for them one by one, how long will it take? Qin Feiyang said. Fatso said, let's stick to the original plan and find Dan Wonkai first. The herbs were the most important. Wait. Qin Feiyang closed his eyes again and sensed carefully. After about 100 breaths, he opened his eyes and smiled. Although everyone is in different directions, they are all rushing towards the southwest. Dan Wonkai happens to be in the southwest direction. Let's follow the original plan and meet up with Dan Wonkai first. Why did they all go to the southwest? At this time, Scorpion King suddenly emerged from the ground and asked. Qin Feiyang smiled. Because the entrance to the second level and the exit of the miracle are in the southwest direction. I see. Scorpion King nodded. Qin Feiyang asked suspiciously, why did you come back? The battle fluctuations over there had not disappeared, indicating that the battle was not over yet. It's all because of the arrogant Crocodile Emperor. It wants to fight those oracles alone and doesn't allow us to intervene. I was bored there, so I came back. Scorpion King snorted. Fight alone? Qin Feiyang and the rest looked at each other. This fellow was not an ordinary kind of arrogant. Let's go and have a look. Qin Feiyang waved his arm, and a group of people immediately rushed toward the battlefield in a grandiose manner. But halfway there, the battle fluctuations disappeared. It meant the battle was over. After a while, Crocodile Emperor, the other two beasts, and Li Jian dragged a dozen bloody corpses and ran over. In fact, it was not an exaggeration to say that they were corpses, because those divine envoys looked too miserable. Not a single part of their bodies was intact. At first glance, they looked like a pile of minced meat. Their life fluctuations were also extremely weak. On their lower abdomens, there was a fist-sized bloody hole with blood gushing out. Why are you here? Crocodile Emperor asked suspiciously when it saw Qin Feiyang and the rest. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. I heard that you wanted to fight them alone, so I came to take a look. I didn't expect it to be over so quickly. Are you doubting my ability? Crocodile Emperor snorted. Really? I was just worried that they would self-destruct and hurt you. After all, you don't have any armor to protect you. Qin Feiyang said. Heh. At least you have some conscience. But as you expected, they wanted to self-destruct. But the Ant Emperor and Spider Emperor quickly shattered their sea of qi. Look at the bloody hole on their lower abdomens. It was caused by these two guys. Crocodile Emperor laughed. The Ant Emperor and Spider Emperor laughed proudly. Scorpion Emperor looked at Crocodile Emperor mockingly. Then this is not a one-on-one battle. Don't talk. Seeing you makes this emperor angry. You sneaked away. I have never seen such a disloyal bastard like you. Crocodile Emperor's eyes were full of disdain. Didn't you want to act cool? Of course, I will fulfill your wish. Let's talk about it later. This emperor's departure also means that I think highly of you and have faith in you. Scorpion Emperor said. You can slowly find excuses for your cowardice. Crocodile Emperor snorted. Bang. Bang. Next, the 2 men and 3 beasts threw the 14 oracles in front of Qin Feiyang. It's our fault. Don't kill us. We are willing to follow you. Even Li Jian and Zhou Zheng, you can let bygones be bygones and keep them by your side. This shows that you are a magnanimous person. Moreover, we are not weak. We will definitely be able to help you. The arrogance of the dozen oracles disappeared completely. They looked at Qin Feiyang in horror, begging for mercy. Magnanimous? Qin Feiyang was stunned. He said playfully, Did you just get to know me? What does magnanimity have to do with me? It must have been hard for you to say such untrue words. Fatso, who was next to him, also laughed. Who in the world did not know Qin Feiyang's temper? It had nothing to do with the word magnanimity. Whoever caused trouble would be killed. There was no room for discussion. Chapter 1486. Qin Feiyang looked at the 14 people coldly and said, Fatso, I'll leave this to you. The rest of you, Follow me back and continue to collect the bee jelly. Go back. The first was to collect the bee jelly, and the second was to collect the blood-devouring bees. He guessed that the remaining blood-devouring bees would return to their hive. Okay, everyone nodded. At first, the fatty was very happy, but when he heard that everyone was going to leave, his expression immediately changed. He hurriedly pulled Qin Feiyang and said, "Don't, boss. If you leave me here alone, what if something happens? It's up to you." After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he turned around and led everyone away quickly. Fatso looked around and did not dare to stay here alone. He quickly gathered the 14 people and chased after Qin Feiyang. After a while, Qin Feiyang stood on top of a mountain and looked ahead. The mountains in front of him were full of holes. This was the blood-devouring bees' hive, but he did not see any of them. They didn't come back? Lu Zheng was surprised. The white-eyed wolf said, "They came back. I can smell their scent. They are all hiding in the hive." Hey! The crocodile emperor grinned and jumped down. It revealed its true form and rushed toward a giant peak. Then, it raised its giant tail and slapped the giant peak. Boom! The giant peak was instantly shattered. A giant beehive appeared. There were at least thousands of blood-devouring bees in the hive. A 7-star combat emperor blood-devouring bee stared at Qin Feiyang in horror and roared, "Human, didn't you say that you would let us go?" Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked doubtfully, "When did I say that?" "You didn't?" The blood-devouring bee muttered. Its eyes were filled with helplessness. It crawled on the ground and begged, "I beg you, please don't kill us. Let us live, okay?" "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded. "What?" The blood-devouring bee was stunned. The rest of the blood-devouring bees looked at each other. So straightforward? Could it be a conspiracy? Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "I promise not to kill you, but I have a condition." "What conditions?" The blood-devouring wasps looked at him in confusion. Qin Feiyang said, "Call out all your people first." "What are you trying to do?" Some blood-devouring bees roared. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "It's fine as long as you don't. But if you don't do it, then don't blame me for being merciless. Go and call everyone out." The 7-star combat emperor's blood-devouring bee roared anxiously. Qin Feiyang's previous display of power had already cast a shadow that could never be erased for the rest of its life. When the surrounding blood-devouring bees heard the roar, they immediately scattered. At this moment, Fatso also rushed over with the 14 divine envoys. Looking at Qin Feiyang and the others, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Then, he threw the 14 people on the ground and sneered, "You bastards! How dare you plot against us? You're courting death. Fat Lord, don't kill us." The 14 people's expressions changed drastically as they hurriedly begged for mercy. Although Fatso's strength wasn't that great, they had long heard of his torture methods. "Don't be nervous. How could Fat Lord bear to kill you?" Fatso chuckled. He took out his Chinkuan bag and flipped it over and over. Finally, he took out a rib bone that was shining with divine light from his Chinkuan bag. It was Mu Tianyang's divine bone. Seeing this, Qin Feiyang looked at Fatso curiously. What was this guy planning to do? But then, his face twitched. Fatso actually took the rib bone, stripped one of the old man's pants, and directly stabbed it in. Ho-oh! The old man immediately let out a miserable howl like a pig being slaughtered. Shameless! Despicable! Bastard! Seeing this scene, Lu Hong, Luo Qingzhu, and the miss of the Longfeng house glared fiercely at Fatso and quickly turned their heads to look elsewhere. Ling Yunfei, Li Jian, and the Scorpion Emperor also looked at Fatso with disdain. To be able to think of such an inhumane method like stabbing the chrysanthemum flower, he was truly a genius. However, the other 13 divine envoys couldn't help but clamp their legs together when they saw this scene, their faces filled with panic. "Does it feel good?" Fatso grabbed the old man's hair and laughed. The old man shook his head frantically, his face filled with pain. At such an old age, he was actually being raped. This was too embarrassing. Not happy? Then Fat Lord will stab you until you feel good. Fatso laughed sinisterly. Good, good, good. The old man hurriedly nodded. Good? Since it feels good, then Fat Lord will continue and let you feel good enough. Fatso laughed evilly. Uh, Ling Yunfei and the others looked at each other in dismay. You have to continue whether you feel good or not. How do you expect others to answer you? This bastard Fatso is really bad. Wait, wait, wait. Qin Feiyang came back to his senses and went forward to stop Fatso. He said in a low voice, "This is a god's bone. Isn't it a bit of a waste to use it for this kind of thing?" "Boss, you don't understand this, do you?" Fatso said. "I don't understand?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. Fatso said, "Fat Lord asked you, whose god's bone is this?" "Mu Tianyang." Qin Feiyang said, "That's right. This is Mu Tianyang's god's bone. Why do you care? Besides, didn't Lu Xingqian say before that we should take good care of the god's bone? He will take it back sooner or later. Since it will be taken back sooner or later, it's better to stab it a few more times now. Think about it. When Lu Xingqian finds out that his god's bone has become a shit-stirrer, what will his reaction be?"
Fatso laughed sinisterly.
Qin Feiyang was stunned. Fatso laughed and said, "Fat Lord will probably be so angry that he will vomit blood." Haha. Qin Feiyang laughed and gave him a thumbs up. "Okay, I'll give you the other 5 ribs too. Deal with it properly." He emphasized the word, deal with. Leave it to Fat Lord.
When the time comes, Fat Lord will not only make him vomit blood, but also make him collapse.
Fatso patted his chest and laughed sinisterly. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. He ignored Fatso and turned around, leaping up and landing on the crocodile emperor's back. Soon, swarms of blood-devouring bees swarmed over and flooded the ground. Qin Feiyang looked over, his eyes full of joy. Although he had killed a lot of blood-devouring bees before, there were at least 100,000 of them left. Suddenly, Lu Zheng jumped to Qin Feiyang's side and frowned. "Little cousin, have you thought of a problem?" "What problem?" Qin Feiyang was puzzled. Although the effect of the bee jelly is amazing, the premise is that the blood-devouring bees have to devour a lot of flesh and blood. In other words, you have to catch ferocious birds and beasts to raise them, Lu Zheng said. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. He had never thought about this problem. Now that he heard Lu Zheng say this, it was a little troublesome. "Of course, if you insist on subduing them, I won't object. However, you have to be mentally prepared in advance," Lu Zheng said. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said with a smile, "We'll talk about it when the time comes." Fatso's screams were endless. The 14 oracles had no other thoughts at this moment. They just wanted to die quickly. But Fatso didn't let them do as they wished. And on Qin Feiyang's side, the blood-devouring bees had basically all arrived. "Now, I'll give you a choice. Or be exterminated, or come with me and work for me." Qin Feiyang looked around and said lightly. As soon as these words came out, the entire swarm of bees was in an uproar. Qin Feiyang said, "I'll give you 30 breaths to think about it." 30 breaths? So short. What should we do? Do we go with him, or resist to the end? Resist? He's so strong that even self-destruction can't hurt him. What can we do to resist? Besides, didn't you see that even the Crocodile Emperor, the Scorpion Emperor, the Ant Emperor, and the Spider Emperor have already followed him? There was a commotion everywhere. 30 breaths passed very quickly. Qin Feiyang said, "Time's up. Tell me your choice." A group of 7 Star War Emperor blood-devouring bees gathered together. When they heard Qin Feiyang's words, they fell silent. "We'll go with you." Finally, they made a decision. This was a decision they had no choice but to make. If they didn't follow, they would face the crisis of extermination. "Very good." Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled. He looked at Ling Yunfei and said, "Let them go to the spatial sacred item." "Okay." Ling Yunfei smiled evilly. With a wave of his hand, an invisible force surged in all directions. Following closely, his mind moved. All the blood-devouring bees disappeared from everyone's sight in an instant. Ling Yunfei looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "You guys continue to collect the bee jelly. I'll go in and settle them down." After saying that, Ling Yunfei also disappeared. Qin Feiyang jumped down from the Crocodile Emperor's back. He turned to look at everyone and said with a smile, "Let's start. Hurry up. Brothers, move your little hands quickly." The crocodile emperor roared and took the lead to rush towards a giant peak. Li Jian and the others, as well as the white-eyed wolf and other beasts, immediately spread out and started to sweep the area. And Fatso's torture was still ongoing. When Qin Feiyang walked over, he saw that the 14 divine envoys all had a look of hopelessness on their faces. Enough. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and stopped Fatso. Looking at the bloody and stinking rib, the corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. "This is a souvenir for Lu Xingchen." Fatso laughed evilly. He took out an iron box and kept it. "You're really wicked."
Qin Feiyang was helpless. Teske, to deal with people like him, you have to use such means.
Fatso didn't care. "You're awesome." Qin Feiyang shook his head speechlessly. He looked down at the 14 divine envoys and said, "Answer my questions honestly, and I'll give you a quick death. Otherwise, I'll let Fatso continue to torture you. We'll talk. We'll tell you everything." Looking at Fatso's smirk, the 14 divine envoys quickly said. Qin Feiyang said, "Other than asking you to kill me, does your chief have any other conspiracy?" "No." The 14 divine envoys shook their heads. "Is that true?"
Qin Feiyang's eyes turned cold.
"It's true." The 14 divine envoys nodded. Qin Feiyang said, "I don't believe it. We're not lying. You have to believe us." The 14 divine envoys were anxious. Qin Feiyang frowned. Fatso came to Qin Feiyang's side and whispered, "Boss, look at them now. Do they dare to lie?" "Not necessarily." Chapter 1487. "Okay." Fatso nodded. Taking out a dagger, he walked in front of an old man and sneered, "You don't want to tell the truth?" After that, he grabbed the dagger and stabbed it into the old man's body, causing blood to spurt out several meters away. "Kill me! Kill me!" The old man screamed in pain. He was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. The 13 people next to him, watching this scene, all curled up together and shivered. "Now, without my permission, you can't die even if you want to." Fatso smiled coldly, took out a healing pill, and forced it into the old man's mouth. Then, he kicked the old man, looked at the other 13 people and sneered, "If you don't tell the truth, I will torture you repeatedly and make you suffer a fate worse than death." I'll talk. A middle-aged man trembled and hurriedly said, "Actually, there is one thing." Sure enough, there is still something hidden. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed and asked, "What is it?" The middle-aged man said, "Our main pagoda has secretly formed an alliance with your great Qin to deal with you and the Mu family." "Alliance?" Qin Feiyang sneered and said, "What a bunch of clowns. Do you think you can kill me by forming an alliance?" The middle-aged man said, "They also expected that they couldn't kill you, so they made a plan." Qin Feiyang and Fatso looked at each other, and their hearts trembled. There was really a conspiracy. Fatso said, "Tell me, what plan?" "The core of this plan is Wang Yu. The main pagoda master knows that you still have feelings for Wang Yuer, so he ordered Wang Yuer to find a chance to get close to you after meeting you in the miracle." The middle-aged man said. Qin Feiyang clenched his hands. He actually used a woman to deal with him. What a scum. Fatso glanced at Qin Feiyang and asked, "Did Wang Yuer agree?" "Yes." The middle-aged man nodded. "What is this woman thinking?" Fatso was a little angry. Also, the main pagoda master and Wang Su have both broken through to the false god realm. The middle-aged man said, "What?" Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled. This was truly a shocking piece of news. Fatso asked in a deep voice, "When did this happen?" It seems to be the time when Qin Feiyang became the chief pagoda master's disciple. However, they have been hiding this matter. Apart from a few of us, no one else knows about it. The middle-aged man said. He broke through at that time, and there was no news at all. He really hid it well. Fatso smiled coldly. Qin Feiyang asked, "Is there anything else?" The middle-aged man shook his head and said, "No more, really no more. Give us a quick death. Don't torture us anymore." Qin Feiyang glanced at the 14 people. After a long time, he waved his hand and said, Kill them all. Fatso nodded. An expanse of black dragon battle chi emerged and transformed into wisps of black dragon battle chi that shot into the foreheads of the 14 people like a bolt of lightning. Ah! With a series of screams, the 14 people immediately fell to the ground and died. Fatso put away his dagger, looked at Qin Feiyang, and asked, "Boss, how do you plan to solve Wang Yuer's matter?" Qin Feiyang sighed and said, "No matter what, she has true feelings for me. I don't know how to deal with it. Let's talk about it when we meet again." Fatso pursed his lips and said, "Boss, don't blame Fat Lord for scolding you. You are really a blockhead." "Why do you say that?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. "I know that you like the mermaid princess, but isn't it normal for a man to have multiple wives? And everyone can see Wang Yuer's feelings for you. In terms of beauty, Wang Yuer is not inferior to the mermaid princess. You can totally take her," Fatso said. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. He thought that Fatso would say something righteous, but it turned out that he was instigating him to be promiscuous. Like was like. If he didn't like, he didn't like. Even if he didn't like, he had to pretend to like. Other men didn't dare to say this, but he couldn't do it. If he forced them to be together, it would be very unfair to the other party, and it would also be a very irresponsible behavior. Forget it. Forget it. You are so stubborn. It's useless to say more." Fatso waved his hand and ran to collect the beeswax. At this time, Ling Yunfei came out of the space divine object. "Have you settled down?" Qin Feiyang asked. "Yes." Ling Yunfei nodded, leaned in front of Qin Feiyang, poked Qin Feiyang's arm, and said with an evil smile, "In fact, you can refer to Fatso's suggestion." Qin Feiyang's face darkened. "Well, I said too much." Ling Yunfei saw that the situation wasn't good. So, he hastily retreated. Then, he grinned at Qin Feiyang and disappeared. What a bunch of unreliable guys. Qin Feiyang shook his head and muttered, his face full of helplessness. But when it came to feelings, he still believed in what he had always thought. When two people were together, at least they loved each other, and it was not a one-sided love. Perhaps some people would say that he was old-fashioned, but he was such a person who was responsible for feelings and the future. Time passed quietly. Half an hour later, everyone returned. Not a single hive was left. They were all swept away. Next, the Ant Emperor, Spider Emperor, Crocodile Emperor, and Li Jian entered Ling Yunfei's space divine object and continued to comprehend the profound meaning of becoming a god. Wolf King, Fatso, and the others also entered the castle and continued to cultivate in seclusion. Qin Feiyang and Ling Yunfei stood side by side on the back of the Scorpion Emperor and rushed towards the southwest. Ling Yunfei laughed. "Thinking back to when we were in Black Bear City, I didn't think that we would have today's achievements." "Yeah." Qin Feiyang nodded. "Back then, we were still wet behind the ears. Although we haven't reached the point where we can cover the sky with one hand, we can still be considered as the overlords of a region. Time passes so quickly." Ling Yunfei sighed. "But the past seems like it just happened yesterday," Qin Feiyang said. Ling Yunfei turned to Qin Feiyang and patted Qin Feiyang on the shoulder, comforting. "I believe that Andy will be fine." "Thank you." Qin Feiyang smiled. After a moment of silence, Qin Feiyang suddenly looked at Ling Yunfei and said, "Uncle Yuan should know the whole truth. You have been with him for so long. Has he ever told you? If you still treat me as a brother, tell me the truth." "Of course I treat you as a brother, but Uncle Yuan really didn't say anything." After Ling Yunfei finished speaking, he pondered for a while and said, "But there is one person who should know." "Who?" Qin Feiyang was surprised and doubtful. "Jiang Qianqing." "No, it's Jiang Jingyi," Ling Yunfei said. Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked suspiciously, "How does he know?" "Because he is the one who has always been with Uncle Yuan. There are many things that Uncle Yuan has entrusted to him. And me, Qingzhu, Shuang Ling and I were just arranged by Uncle Yuan to cultivate in a place. Except for visiting us occasionally, we rarely see him." Ling Yunfei said. "Where is Jiang Jingyi now?" Qin Feiyang asked. "Imperial Palace." Ling Yunfei said. "What?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. Ling Yunfei said with a smile, "He has been lurking in the Kirin army. On one hand, He is ordered to monitor the imperial palace's movements, and on the other hand, he is paying attention to your news. On Uncle Yuan's orders? Qin Feiyang asked. Yes. Ling Yunfei nodded. Qin Feiyang smiled helplessly. He really didn't expect Jiang Jingyi to be so close. Okay, I'm going to the spatial divine item to deal with the beehive. Send me to the castle, Ling Yunfei said. Qin Feiyang said, after dealing with it, find some jade bottles, fill them with beehive, and distribute them to everyone in case of emergency. Okay, Ling Yunfei nodded. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and Ling Yunfei suddenly disappeared. Scorpion King said, Boss Qin, I really didn't expect you to have so many people around you. You even call a creature like the wolf brother. I really admire you. What's wrong with the wolf? Qin Feiyang smiled. Scorpion King sneered. Wolves are recognized as a creature without conscience. Otherwise, why would they have the title of white-eyed wolf? Not necessarily. Every creature has a good and evil side. It depends on how you treat them. Aren't species like you also ferocious in the eyes of the world? But now, aren't you getting along well with me? Treat each other with sincerity, heart for heart. Qin Feiyang smiled. Treat each other with sincerity, heart for heart. I finally understand why the Wolf King and Spirit Serpent Emperor are so loyal to you. It's because you have a sincere heart that doesn't discriminate against us ferocious beasts, the Scorpion Emperor muttered with a smile. Not only them, but I also have many beasts around me. For example, pangolin, winged snow eagle, black dragon snake, flood dragon. There are also thunder leopards, seals, seahorses, and so on that haven't entered the divine sight. There are even divine beasts. Qin Feiyang said. What divine beast? Scorpion King was surprised. Fire Qilin. Qin Feiyang said. Fire Qilin. Scorpion King was dumbfounded. This is a real divine beast, one that's rarely seen in 1,000,000 years. Where is it now? Scorpion King asked. Qin Feiyang said, it's also in the divine sight. I believe it won't be long before we find it. Scorpion King's eyes were full of expectation. Then, as if he thought of something, he said, however, it's very dangerous with a divine beast here. Why? Qin Feiyang was surprised. The bloodline power of a divine beast is very tempting for beasts like us, because the flesh and blood of a divine beast can allow us to transform. Sometimes, if we're lucky, we can even evolve after drinking some blood. Scorpion King said. Qin Feiyang frowned. It seemed that he had to find Fire Qilin as soon as possible. After all, with Fire Qilin's current cultivation, it wasn't enough to run rampant in the first level. He immediately closed his eyes and carefully sensed Fire Qilin's location. Southeast. The distance between the two should take more than 10 days according to the speed of Scorpion King and the other 3 beasts. Southeast, southwest, the difference wasn't too big. And according to his senses, Fire Qilin was also moving southwest. Since it was moving, it meant that Fire Qilin was still fine. When he found Dan Wangkai, he should be able to make it in time. After all, Dan Wangcai's strength wasn't as strong as Fire Qilin. Qin Feiyang opened his eyes and looked southeast. He said to Scorpion King, I'll go to the castle to cultivate. You continue on your way. Inform me immediately if there are any changes. Okay. By the way, don't let the Ant Emperor and the rest replace me for the next few days, Scorpion King said. Why? Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked. Just take it that I'm at a disadvantage. Let them stay in the spatial divine item and comprehend the profound meaning of becoming a god. Besides, I'm already used to the climate here. It doesn't matter how long I stay outside. Scorpion King said. Qin Feiyang said in surprise. I didn't expect you to be such a warm-hearted guy. Don't praise me. I'll fly. Scorpion King chuckled and stopped. It would be great if you could really fly into the sky. Chapter 1488. Time passed quickly. 9 days had passed outside. 9 days outside, but a full 90 days had passed inside the castle. The white-eyed wolf, Lu Hong, Fatso, Lu Zhang, and the Spirit Snake Emperor had all made breakthroughs in their cultivation. As for the Miss of the Dragon Phoenix House and Luo Qingzhu, They were both 9-star war emperors, so it was naturally not easy for them to break through again. As for Ling Yunfei, these days, he had been processing the beehive and the spatial divine object and had never shown his face. As for Qin Feiyang, after this period of copying, he had only completed a small part of the 5th stroke. It was equivalent to a quarter. Compared to when he was copying the 4th stroke, the speed of copying had increased by several times. However, Qin Feiyang was already very satisfied. After all, according to the time outside, it had only been 9 days. This morning, a large canyon appeared in front of him. Inside the canyon, there was still not a single blade of grass growing, but the ground was filled with bones, as if it was hell. The Scorpion Emperor slammed on the brakes and stopped in front of the canyon. He looked at the canyon with fear in his eyes and whispered, "Boss Qin, come out quickly." Swish. Not long after he finished speaking, Qin Feiyang appeared on the back of the Scorpion Emperor. Looking at the canyon in front of him, his pupils constricted slightly as he asked in surprise, "Why are there so many bones?" These bones were all bones of fierce beasts. The Scorpion Emperor said, "This place is called the White Bone Canyon. There is a group of people who eat people without spitting out the bones. I think it's best to take a detour." Eat people without spitting out the bones? What is it? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Ghost wolf. The Scorpion Emperor said, "Ghost wolf." Qin Feiyang was surprised. This was actually another creature that was as famous as the Spirit Snake Emperor. It was born without any aura, like a ghost walking in the night. And the ghost wolf also had a kind of innate ability. They could absorb the essence of the moon and raise their cultivation by 4 small realms in an instant. In other words, at night, the ghost wolf was an extremely terrifying creature. However, during the day, their innate ability could not be activated. It was passed down. In ancient times, people who wanted to hunt the ghost wolf during the day. But it was not easy to hunt the ghost wolf. Firstly, he couldn't sense their auras. Secondly, they would only come out to hunt at night and would usually hide during the day. It was very difficult to find them. Why do I hate wolves so much? It's because of these ghost wolves that occasionally come to harass us. Look at the bones here. Some of them are my clansmen. Scorpion Emperor said in disgust. Qin Feiyang carefully observed the white bones on the ground, and he really did find some corpses of spirit demon scorpions. He pondered for a moment. Qin Feiyang asked, "How long will it take if we take a detour?" The mountains on both sides of the slanting valley are also the territory of the ghost wolves. If we want to bypass the wolf pack, it should take about half a month. The Scorpion Emperor said after pondering for a moment. Half a month? Qin Feiyang was speechless. Fire Qilin, Dan Wangkai, Viper, and the others were in an unknown situation. He didn't know if they were in any danger. Therefore, time was equivalent to life. He couldn't afford to waste half a month. He had to pass through this place as soon as possible. Right. There's one more thing I haven't told you. These ghost wolves also control a water source. The Scorpion Emperor said. What? There's a water source here? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Yes, it's at the end of the canyon. The Scorpion Emperor nodded. This? Qin Feiyang was stunned. He originally thought that there was only one water source in the miracle. There are many water sources in the miracle. As far as I know, there are 5 water sources within a radius of 1 million miles. But without exception, they are all occupied by powerful beast emperors. Moreover, these beast emperors are the same as the little crocodiles. They all have a divine artifact. The Scorpion Emperor said, his eyes full of desire. 5 water sources, and they all have a divine artifact. Qin Feiyang was dumbfounded. Didn't this mean that as long as he found the other 4 water sources, he could get 4 more divine artifacts? His breathing suddenly became rapid. No wonder Emperor Hong didn't hesitate to put down his face and kneel to him to get a cluster of alchemy fire from him to enter the miracle. With so many divine artifacts, who didn't want them? Not to mention getting all of them. As long as they got 1 or 2, it was enough to dominate a region. Originally, he didn't want to take a detour. Now that he heard that there was a water source at the end of the canyon, he couldn't take a detour. You know, the water source here must also have Kuei water essence. Qin Feiyong took a deep breath and said with a smile, "Let's go. Go directly into the canyon." "Are you sure?" the Scorpion Emperor said. "Of course." Qin Feiyong nodded and smiled. "You know there are tigers in the mountain, but you still go to the Tiger Mountain." The Scorpion Emperor shook his head helplessly, moved his huge body, and ran directly into the canyon. Under its trampling, the bones on the ground were crushed. That sound made one's scalp tingle. Ayo! Less than 10 breaths into the canyon, a wolf howl suddenly sounded in front. The Scorpion Emperor's body stiffened and involuntarily stopped. Looking forward, he saw a giant wolf standing on a stone platform halfway up the mountain 1/2 mile away. Its body size was more than 10 meters. The hair all over its body was black and gray. Its 2 fierce eyes were blood red, like 2 red lanterns, glowing with a bloodthirsty light. "It really is a ghost wolf," Qin Feiyong muttered. Moreover, its cultivation was not weak. 9-star War Emperor. The Scorpion Emperor scanned his surroundings vigilantly and said in a low voice, "The appearance of a ghost wolf means that we are now surrounded by ghost wolves." "Encirclement," Qin Feiyong muttered and looked at the 2 sides of the canyon. Sure enough, behind some rocks, one could find a huge head. Looking back again, more than a dozen 9-star War Emperor giant wolves were at the entrance of the canyon, cutting off Qin Feiyong and the Scorpion Emperor's retreat. "These guys are really like ghosts. They surrounded us without anyone noticing. But don't worry, I'm here. Let's continue forward," Qin Feiyong said with a faint smile. And the Scorpion Emperor nodded and walked forward while looking around. Looking at its cautious appearance, Qin Feiyong couldn't help but want to laugh, and said helplessly, "Can you hurry up? Do you only have this much courage?" "Who said that?" The Scorpion Emperor seemed to have its tail stepped on and almost jumped up. Qin Feiyong laughed. "If you're not afraid, why are you so timid?" "Who said I'm timid? I'm just being careful," the Scorpion Emperor said confidently. Qin Feiyong shook his head and smiled and said, "Cut the crap. Hurry up. Don't be like a woman dawdling." "I'm not a woman," the Scorpion Emperor said angrily. The sharp claws under its feet waved crazily. It was as if there were countless kitchen knives chopping vegetables, turning into a stream of light and rushing forward. Eowyn, seeing that the Scorpion Emperor did not stop, but instead sped up, the giant wolf standing halfway up the mountain let out another long howl, shaking the canyon. The howl carried a trace of anger and threat. The Scorpion Emperor said angrily, "Roar your sister. Look who this emperor is. Roar again and I'll chop you up." The giant wolf's eyes were filled with murderous intent. It leaped down and landed on the ground with a bang, blocking in front of Qin Feiyong and the Scorpion Emperor. "Even the Wolf King has to give me some face, and you dare to block my way? Get out of my way right now," the Scorpion Emperor said angrily. The giant wolf glanced at the Scorpion Emperor and stared at Qin Feiyong. "You can pass through the Bone Canyon, but this human can't," the Scorpion Emperor said. "He's my friend? Do you think I'm stupid? As the Scorpion Emperor, would you be friends with a human?" The giant wolf sneered. The Scorpion Emperor said in a deep voice, "This is my business. You don't have to interfere. Stop pretending. We've received news about you, the Crocodile Emperor, the Ant Emperor, and the Spider Emperor. Your people have been slaughtered by humans. The water source ruled by the Crocodile Emperor has also been destroyed. And now, you've brought this human here for the water source. I'm warning you, if you don't want us to do it, let go of that human immediately. Otherwise, don't blame us for disregarding our old friendship and killing you too." The giant wolf laughed sinisterly. Presumptuous. The Scorpion Emperor was burning with anger. Not only did he not slow down, he even sped up and charged directly at the giant wolf. Stubborn. The giant wolf laughed sinisterly and retreated to the side like lightning. The Scorpion Emperor swept past and snorted, "If you dare to block the way again, I won't show mercy." With that, he left without looking back. The giant wolf did not chase after him. He walked to the center of the canyon and looked at the backs of the Scorpion Emperor and Qin Feiyong. The wolves lurking around also came out one by one and gathered behind the giant wolf. They stared at the man and beast, their eyes flashing fiercely. Suddenly, One of the ghost wolves retracted his gaze and looked at the giant wolf. Do you want to kill them? No hurry. The giant wolf looked up at the sky and sneered. They need at least 3 days to pass through the Bone Canyon. We have plenty of chances. The group of ghost wolves heard and immediately laughed sinisterly. At the same time, in the canyon, Qin Feiyang stood on the back of the Scorpion Emperor and looked up at the 10 suns in the sky, his face full of worry. Did you see that, boss? That little wolf cub was so scared by me that he didn't dare to make a sound. Now, he still dares to say that I'm afraid of everything? The Scorpion Emperor said proudly. Sigh. Qin Feiyang heaved a long sigh. What are you sighing for? The Scorpion Emperor was puzzled. Qin Feiyang did not answer and asked, with your speed, how long will it take to pass through the Bone Canyon? The Scorpion Emperor thought for a moment and said, it should take 3 days and 3 nights. 3 days and 3 nights. Qin Feiyang murmured and sighed. That confirms my guess even more. What guess? The Scorpion Emperor was suspicious. Qin Feiyang said, those ghost wolves didn't attack just now not because they were scared by you, but because they planned to attack at night. At night? The Scorpion Emperor was surprised. That's right. You have the cultivation of the Peak Realm, and their strongest is only a 9-star War Emperor. So they know that they can't kill you during the day, but at night, when the moon comes out, they can activate their innate ability. And according to the ancient records, their innate ability is enough to increase their cultivation to the peak realm of 9-star War Emperor. Based on your familiarity with the Ghost Wolves, I believe you should know this as well. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.